Straight Riffin is filmed in front of a live internet audience.
I am riffing. Mitch is riffing. What more can I say? Straight riffing. Do you know how fucking desperate I am for some comfort in my life? I need that pillow.
This show is intended for mature audiences only.
I've seen a lot of dicks.
I don't know how much more disgusting this experience could get.
Are you really not having a good time?
I'm having a fantastic time. I just can't believe how disgusting you
I
are.
kept yelling, I'm not gonna whip my dick out. We talked about that. I'm not gonna do that.
Featuring your host, Mitch Marzoni.
I don't walk around going like, hey, I'm really weird. Look at me, I'm weird. As far as I'm concerned, I'm perfectly normal. It's a litmus test for freaky.
And Teddy Tutson.
I'm a hate mercenary. Yeah.
All right. Hate mercenary.
Hater for hire. Hater for hire. I should put on a disguise.
There are two victimless crimes, all right? One, jerking off when your window's open. Two, necrophilia.
I'm confessing to a large-scale crime.
Okay, all right.
now.
Legs akimbo, engaged in sexual discourse.
Come on, man. What kind of guest are you?
It's archived for posterity.
Great internet.
So it'll come back to haunt you every day.
It's time to riff.
That is right, bitches and motherfuckers. It is June 25th, 2012. Episode, I don't know.
66.
66. And it is time to riff the fuck on. I am your host, Reverend Mitch, and with me, as always, is the difficult Brown, the hater for hire, Mr. Teddy, TMI Tutson. How the fuck are you, sir?
Oh, Mitch, I'm feeling dandy right now.
Feeling dandy.
Feeling dandy, feeling
All right.
stupendous, superballistic. I am walking on a cloud, my man. Gainful employment.
Good.
Got my feet back on the ground. Holler at your boy, riffing.
Good. Glad to hear it. Okay. That's awesome. That's awesome. I'm glad to hear that.
You know what? One day I'm gonna hire a translator, and we got.
No, I know. I got this time. I got it.
You don't get nothing.
I got
You
this.
got nothing.
Sometimes when you go off on the other things and you start throwing in, I think actually,
It's
if
too much.
one were to go back, and I don't know if you do this intentionally, but it seems like there's the theme of like what's in your head as it relates to the show is what you throw out in just a series of adjectives that seem discordant at times.
It seems, yes.
But
in the end,
But in the end, I think you could come back and go, oh, that's the week that Teddy got a job. Or that's the week that Teddy got a new laptop. Or that's the week that Wayne Kramer was on. Or that's the week that, you know what I mean?
the intro is a very cryptic kind of thing, but
Yeah,
that's
little
how I
weird.
live my life. You understand?
Now I feel rude. We never do this much pre-guest discussion.
I
So
know.
now I gotta cut you
You
off.
got to do it.
And introduce our special guest this evening, Mr. Erik MacArthur. How the fuck are you, sir?
I'm doing good. I'm just focusing on making sure that I'm staring right at the thing and talking right into the mic.
You don't. You can relax. It's okay.
I can sit
I
back
wouldn't
and
worry.
talk.
Yeah. You'd be
The
all right.
cat will pop up and let you know if you've done. If you've
I'm
done
doing
it.
good.
It's good.
Yeah, happy to be here.
Yeah, it's probably not how you originally would spend a Monday evening. This is what,
Well,
late
it's a
afternoon,
Monday evening. Yeah. No.
7 o'clock at night. That's true.
The sun
It's
is still-
fucking me up with the sun. Right?
I was
You
just
get that?
happy I didn't come in the place and you guys didn't rob me when I walked in.
Surprise!
I
No
gotta imagine.
podcast, all robbing.
Right, yeah.
If you're standing outside, you see Mitch and I walk up, and you're like, "This is the podcast." Okay, all right. The black guy put on a polo to throw me off the scent. Very well done.
Clever. No, Teddy, don't wear the hoodie. He'll know what's up.
It was more the neighbors.
That's true. The neighbors are. The neighborhood really is. It can be scary. The first night that I stayed in this complex, many years ago, I lived here before with a roommate, and the first night in this complex, he and I decided to take a fun little walk to Hollywood Boulevard, and on the way just to the corner, from outside where we grabbed you to the corner, there was a guy just walking with us, offering me the new cigar, and.
Yeah.
This is where Teddy will call me a number of white names.
No,
but,
no, not yet.
I was so I said, what's the new cigar? And my roommate at the time just grabbed me. He's like, don't talk to him. I was like, what the fuck is the new cigar, man? And he's got a cigar, like a single cigar holder, and he's just shaking. It's just crack rocks. I'm thinking I'm like, there's nothing cigar-like about that, sir.
Wait, was he just storing crack in a cigar?
Yeah. Well, not in a cigar, like in a clear plastic case that you would put one cigar in,
Oh,
like
yeah.
a real cheap
yeah.
cigar.
Oh.
Like
he
the ones
probably-
you'd buy at the
He
corner
probably
store.
bought a cigar, smoked it,
and it was like, this is the perfect place to store the rest of my crack.
Yeah.
Right. So he was selling you crack. He was selling crack rocks in a container.
Yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
right,
Yeah.
right.
Calling it the new cigar.
Right.
How many did you buy?
Which just 3, just to get started. You know,
Yeah.
always start with 3. 1 for you, 1 for the homie, 1 just in case.
Right. You gotta have that backup.
Backup crack rock. Where is the first crack rock? I don't know, but look under the couch. You know that's where we put the backup at.
Yeah, you gotta keep. Well, look, if you like something, right? Whatever. You know, I mean, you and your other person, you had your one. You can throw the other one away. It's just one. It's not a big deal. But if you dig it, then it's like, oh, good. And we have this last piece we can split up.
I feel like if you're buying crack for the first time and you don't, and you just buy a lot.
Oh,
of crack.
this is. I'm applying this more like
Everything.
food and everything else.
I was
Everything except crack.
I thought we were
Okay.
still very crack oriented.
That's fine.
That's my fault.
It's fine. It's cool.
Well, I feel like if you buy 3 crack rocks, you know,
Mm-hmm.
you're like, you're putting yourself in a very precarious situation because
I don't even know how that translates. It's like a
3
Sunny in
crack rocks?
Philadelphia.
Yeah,
Wait,
like one-
Let me get one crack. One crack, please. Have you seen
Am
a
I
lot
a
of
crack
crack?
smoker?
No.
did you?
Merely wondered if you'd been in situations where somebody had offered you crack
Oh yeah, no, I've been offered crack quite a few times, but I've
on the set.
You could
yeah,
see
on the set actually.
When you're done saluting your shorts, take
yeah,
a puff off
exactly.
this.
I've been offered crack a few times and never tried it. It's
you-
I have friends that have been. I mean, they're.
Yeah, have you seen people
yeah, I've
on
seen-
crack?
Oh yeah, no.
What is it
I've
to
known
watch
people
someone high
smoke
on crack?
for like daily for years at a time types of things. I mean, people are like, there's functioning crack addicts out there that are like.
Can you be a functioning crack addict?
Yeah, they are. They
There
actually
has to be,
are.
right?
But they're weird as all hell. I mean, like they generally. I've been around them. They just kind of hang out in their apartment and peek out the shades and do whatever else. And
To be fair, Richard Pryor was.
then they get a bunch of.
fair.
They always end up with a bunch of hookers, but you can't get hard or something when you're smoking crack. So it's like I don't know. Anyway,
That's-
yeah.
That's a damn shame, I guess.
There's always I don't know.
That's your dick trying to tell you something.
It's
You
yeah.
don't need all these hookers, and you don't need the crack that brought them here.
If there's
always the stories that I hear, they smoke crack for days at a time. They get hookers, but they end up not being able to do anything.
They just talk and cry,
they're
probably.
Just hanging out with hookers.
that look
Smoking
as
crack
a
and hanging out with hookers.
as an important life lesson to pass down to the kids, let me just tell you, listen to your dick sometimes.
Yeah.
Your dick knows what's best sometimes. Certainly, if you're trying to get into trouble and your dick is like, no, we shouldn't do this, listen to your dick.
Here's my
Don't do more coke and slap it around and go, don't worry, I'll get hard soon. No, just call it a night. You know what I'm saying?
as a man who's witnessed a lot of crack addiction.
This doesn't work the other way. When your dick goes, hey, we should really go out and get some pussy, and it's like it's 3 a.m. and you got to go through the cell phone and be like, yeah, it'd be a really good idea. That's when you don't listen to your dick. But in the other way, when your dick is
when
like,
you're high on crack.
well, I don't even so much high on crack. I was in a situation merely a few days ago, wherein
Trouble.
I just thought,
Crack.
I'm really not feeling this. No, just a sexual situation. And I thought, I'm really not feeling this. And the dick was like, yeah, me either. And I was like, yeah, let's pack it up and leave these kids
So
alone.
what if it had disagreed with you? What if they were
It's
competing
never
heads?
happened. It's never happened. It's never happened where the dick was like, yeah, and I was like, no. The dick knows what's up. Like it's been good about that.
Well,
You know,
it's good to know that
just,
you know yourself.
just how it goes.
Here's my
or
question.
rather, wait, no, I'm sorry, that was backwards. I've never been like, yeah, and the dick was like, no. That's
Okay,
what I meant to
fair.
say.
Oh, yeah.
So if the dick is going no, I'm like, I mean, it always wants. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm
I
talking
don't know
about.
what you're talking about.
So your dick is always going like, hey, here's what we need to do tonight. And you're like, I got stuff to take care of. Your dick is like, no, I got a plan, right? So if you're seeing that plan through, and your dick goes, then something's wrong. You got to pay attention to that. Is nobody coming with me on this?
Yeah, you lost me on that. We were like,
I can't be. I can't. I don't. I can't.
All
I
right.
cannot relate to that.
Back to crack, apparently.
Yeah, no,
since
fair
you're
question.
a fucking expert on that.
As a man who's witnessed a lot of crack, that's what is your number one tip to spot a crackhead? You're like if you were
My
like
number one
well like
tip?
if you were like
Yeah.
you like what would you be like, that man is a crack. He is a
People
function.
come here for
Well,
advice.
Generally,
This
when
is
they're
a good way.
walking out with your television set, that's a good sign.
It's good. Yeah.
Okay.
You know.
Fair
All
enough.
right, you go for the obvious one.
Fair play.
No, it's I don't know. I mean, what else would be a a sign of a, tell me, please.
Oh, I am a not the crack aficionado in the
No,
room.
but what would you be your
I
number
don't
one
know.
sign of a crackhead?
For me, a lot
Twitchiness?
of a lot of jittering.
Yeah.
Twitchy,
Discussions of crack.
But I would rather hang around crackheads than meth heads.
That's
that's
every
all
day.
right.
You
I'll-
know,
yeah,
I would
that's
much
true.
rather hang around a party of crackheads than a party of base heads.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Meth is the
Crackheads
worst.
will sell their own stuff. Meth heads will sell your stuff.
Right.
Like
right.
while you're sitting on it.
Yeah, they will
You want
sell
this
you. They
couch?
will sell you
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
before you've even known it. Someone will walk in.
Hey, who wants a comedian? Anybody want a comedian?
Right, right.
Someone will just come in
Got
and
an
be
ass
like, "You're mine
butthole.
now."
Come on in.
And they'll be like, "What's going on?" They was like, "I sold you for a bag of meth."
Yeah.
You understand?
Right.
That's what's going on.
You don't get that explanation out of them. That takes too much time. You got to get it from the guy who bought you.
Oh well, yeah.
You know
That's
what I'm
true. The meth head would not. They'd be busy smoking meth. You're right.
Although I do think that if we could start a program whereby to sort of fix meth heads, you know what I mean, as a sort of rehab. If you could just get them and you just chain them to the wall, they'll clean your whole house, but you just need to keep them from being able to grab anything and get away with it.
That sounds strangely like 28 Days Later.
Yeah, it's very similar. Very similar. Same idea. Same idea.
Okay, all right.
Only
I see
they
where
can still think they're just doing it like at a rapid pace. They're not just foaming in the mouth and making noises. They're going to be talking about like this is bullshit and whatever else.
Sounds like a Brave New Reality show.
But like if like they had to clean the whole place and you were like somewhere in all of this mess is more meth. So but you have to clean to find it. They'd be like, "Oh, dude, I'm there."
Oh,
This
you'd
is
have
the-
to feed them as like Skittles and a big gulp now and then. You'd be fine.
yeah. Yeah.
Skittles and a big gulp. Man, meth addicts are very a simple budget to fix. I'm betting $45 for Skittles to the side
Yeah.
and about $13 for big gulps, okay? Free refills. Don't worry about it. That's
Yeah.
good.
See? Gets them off of meth. Because they might be like, after a while, like, this is bullshit. Like,
Whoever gets done first gets a free blowtorch.
You sound like someone who is working on like a meth Olympics. Like, you're like creating
Just
your own.
constantly, I don't know. I don't know. I have a buddy of mine, and we always joke about meth heads.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, they're it's not really my scene.
we always used to call them tweakers back in the day. Is that
Yeah,
is that not a
tweakers.
phrase
Is
anymore?
base heads what's in now?
Well, yeah. Well, I don't. I mean, tweakers probably tweakers, base heads. I mean, yeah, we used to call them base heads too when I was in, I don't know, school a long time ago. But yeah, they're it's a rough crowd.
That was one of the many groups that apparently Ferris Bueller was appealing to.
The tweakers.
Tweakers?
No, base heads. If you remember the little speech, everybody
Oh.
like jocks, dweebs, nerds, base heads, zippos.
Yeah, so maybe I don't know
whatever.
what base heads. I wonder what that was representing in the late '80s. What was base heads at that
I
point?
don't know. I don't
Riffopolis,
know.
you
I might
gotta come
be.
through
I'm
for
gonna.
us.
I might be wrong on who she. I don't even know what to look up. Ferris Bueller.
Base heads.
Everyone likes him. Maybe.
Base heads.
They all like him.
Ferris
They
Bueller's
think he's a
Baseheads.
righteous dude.
Yeah.
He's very popular. There we go. Okay, I found it. So we'll get the exact audio for this.
Suburban Chicago,
I could swear.
1987. What is base
Very
heads?
popular.
Set the scene.
The sportos, the motorheads, geeks, sluts, bloods, wastoids, dweebies, dickheads. They all adore him. They think he's a righteous dude.
Was that base heads? Sound like
No,
big heads.
no, it was not base heads. You're right.
It is
That
good
was
to know that
dickheads.
meth addicts did not make the cut in affairs.
That's
Wastoids, however, I'm pretty sure
Suburban
wastoids.
Chicago didn't have base heads at the high school that Ferris went to.
It was still underground at
Yeah.
the time. It
Yeah,
was
exactly.
subterranean epidemic. You understand?
Wastoids, though. I remember. I can remember, like in elementary school, there was a guy that everybody just called Stoner. That was just his name, and he was just,
Right.
you know, he was. I think he came from like a high school or something. And he just hung out after the school on our playground. I'm not real sure what his story was. Do you have anybody like that?
Well, let's say you
Just
grew up.
just a guy, like a local character, and it was like that guy. We call him Stoner.
So
or
you grew up in Hawaii,
Old
right?
drunk.
I grew up in Hawaii. Yeah.
Hawaii,
Yeah.
not Chicago.
No,
So you
Chicago.
were nowhere near the base heads in Chicago. But what is? I don't know. I mean,
It's
I don't.
way too mellow for,
Yeah.
for meth
could-
out
No,
there,
there's
yeah?
well, I mean,
What is like what
meth,
life growing up in
meth
Hawaii?
actually became quite a problem in Hawaii right after the time that I graduated high school. It was like
Really?
in the '90s and stuff. They call it ice out there.
Yeah, I've heard that. I heard
so
that
there's a lot of
nickname
ice
before.
heads, and they started bringing. Well, I guess they were making it themselves over there, and then they started bringing a lot of meth into the islands. And a lot of that happened right after. When I grew up, there was a ton of pot, and it was outdoor grown and whatever. And the feds financed a program called Green Harvest, and they came in and took out a ton of the weed. and so when the weed started to run out in Hawaii, more people needed to get high, and that was when meth kind of started to come in.
That's a big jump.
And
Yeah,
I
yeah,
mean,
going from
it's-
chilling out to freaking out.
It's pretty
yeah.
crazy to
Is it
think, but
still
it
now?
was no. I mean, they've gotten it under control a lot in the past, like probably 6 or 7 years, and the weed thing's not as hard to get, but like probably mid 90s to late 90s, around then there was a big climb in meth use over there. It got to be it was a pretty bad problem.
It's kind of weird to think of Hawaii as a meth haven because it seems
Yeah.
so contradictory to what meth is,
Right.
and kind of what everyone envisions, but Hawaii. But I mean, is that you? I feel like whenever Hawaii is mentioned, everyone pictures this sort of scenic, ideal paradise kind
Not
of thing,
some
whatever.
tweaker sitting on the beach.
Right? Yeah, but I mean, was that your experience?
I
growing
gotta
up
pick
in
up
Hawaii
all this
before you
sand,
left?
one grain at a time.
It was what my experience like.
I mean, like, so I mean, you were.
I left paradise and
much
came back to a meth, a crack house.
This
yeah.
is not what
Yeah,
happened to all the
everybody's
surfboards.
eyes are
Yeah, is that way? Did you?
bulging out
So,
their heads
so you were like born and raised
skin
there,
red.
or like
Yeah.
you?
Yeah, I was born and raised there. I was born on Oahu and raised on the Big Island, and I was raised in a kind of like a country town on the Big Island, a pretty small town up there.
So how did that go from there to getting into, say, the Nickelodeon stuff and everything
Oh,
else
it
like
was
that?
it was kind of a random thing. My folks sent me to boarding school up in Ojai when I was like 14, and because it was just,
Got in a little bit of trouble, did you?
yeah, no, they wanted to give me more exposure and all the rest of it, and I got a summer camp up there, and then a casting director came up and started auditioning me for a John Hughes movie that I almost
Right,
got
it was
called
Dutch, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's in my bio probably, as you guys read, right? And then
He
right
did,
after
yeah.
that, like probably within like a month, I had like 2 more auditions and ended up getting cast on that show.
And you were like, I've been to camp. I know what this is all
Yeah,
about.
and I've been to summer camp quite a bit, like summer camp, and but yeah, it was random. I thought it was kind of a thing where they were gonna need you during the summertime because it was summer camp, but I had to get out of school in like a week or 2, and then I was on a show for I guess about 1.5 years or 2 years before I left. I ended up leaving it. It was kind of a weird time in high school for me to be on this show, and I was with a manager at the time who was trying to get me movies, and we ended up, my folks weren't living in LA. It was kind of weird.
So you just basically relocated to LA by yourself
to a degree, yeah. I mean, my mom's originally from LA, and I had an aunt and uncle at the time that lived in Sherman Oaks, and I lived with them, and and just they had somebody pick me up every day and take me to work. And
I read something about the Salute Your Shorts, the audition process where like after the pilot was picked up, they made everyone re-audition again.
yeah, they had when I got cast on the show, they had already shot a pilot, and the only people that they kept from the original pilot were Danny Cooksey, the redhead, your boy. Right? Everybody's
The
excited about
redhead.
that. and Michael Bauer, Donkey Lips.
All right.
And everybody else was recast. So they'd already done that prior to me coming. That was when I auditioned. That's when they opened it up, and when they decided to pick it up, they opened it up and auditioned like hundreds and hundreds of kids. It was just kind of like.
And you were picked before that or after that?
I was picked from the hundreds and hundreds of
Oh,
kids,
wow.
kind of thing.
Nice.
So yeah, it was cool. It was it was I don't know. I can't really. The show itself was kind of a crazy time though. It was.
Yeah, because you guys filmed. Like, I feel like the difference with
They
Salute
had
Your Shorts
seasons back then, right?
They had seasons back then.
Well,
Well, I have this thing that I had to explain to Teddy that probably until I was, I'm going to say 17, maybe later, probably later, maybe in my 20s even, that I didn't even know that shows had seasons. They just came on and I just watched them.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until like I started.
Magic time.
I
And you
started.
just lived there. People just lived there.
No, I mean I knew that they didn't.
It was like the
I
Truman Show.
didn't mean that they filmed all the time. I'm not saying I was an idiot. I was just ignorant.
Hey, Ma, the magic people on the TV again.
yeah, exactly.
God damn it, no. All right, fine, but maybe. No, it wasn't until like
knocking on the screen. Can you hear me?
Yeah,
Can you hear me?
Where are they? Where's Tony Danza? This Who's the Bot? I can't find
What
him.
happened to the
Yeah.
people that were on 30 minutes
Yeah,
ago?
exactly.
I didn't know until like DVDs
Where
were.
does Mr. Belvedere actually sleep?
We could go all day with this. This has become
Fuck
a
all
great
y'all.
new subplot for the whole
Thank-
rest of the episode.
Fuck all y'all. Until like DVDs and like you could buy seasons of TV.
Gilligan, build a
on-
bigger boat.
Yeah, yeah.
I just assumed that they were like filmed every week until they stopped. Like they filmed once a
Oh,
week, and that
right,
was like they
right.
went to the studio and filmed the show.
like the
I didn't put
1950s
a lot
model.
of thought into this, so it's not like this was like a here's how TV works,
Unlike
guys.
Eric and I, we put a lot of thought into what you did.
Clearly, you put more thought into it than I ever did. But
You're
it was
welcome.
like
You're welcome.
so when I started buying like DVDs and like TV seasons and stuff, that's why I was like, okay, so that's how they would do. Okay, so they're doing seasons, and just any show prior to like the 2003, 2004, any show prior to that. I just in my head doesn't have seasons. Not that it doesn't. I just wouldn't even think
Like,
about
blows
it.
your fucking
so
mind
when
to look at a DVD,
so when
doesn't
Teddy the other night he goes, yeah, what Salute Your Shorts was on for what, like 2 seasons? I was like, I never thought of that. They would have had like
Yeah, 2
seasons. They would have been like
seasons.
2 seasons, right? 2 seasons.
2.5 or 3 seasons. I left, and then they did like a half a season after that.
Yeah, it's so like the
They lost their soul.
Yeah, I took the soul with myself when I took off.
Did you? But you just said I'm fucking done. Fuck y'all or what?
Yeah, pretty much. It was strange. It was I was going to a prep school up in Ojai, and my folks were really pretty serious about my education. I'd gone to a private school in Hawaii, and they were just kind of like, it was very strict, and like they were, I don't know, my family came out. It was kind of a strange living situation. I really wanted to go back to Hawaii and finish off high school with my friends, and I was just kind of small town. It wasn't like we were ever signing up to get me into the biz at like 14 or 15 years old.
Yeah, I imagine
so.
it kind of takes off. You think you're
And it was-
auditioning for one movie, and next thing
Yeah,
you know, you're relocating.
and then I got with the manager, and they tested me for some big films that I ended up getting, and it was but it was close to that, and that made a little bit more sense.
Do you think if you'd have stuck around for another half season, you would have been the redhead in Terminator 2?
No, he did that actually prior to the first season. He was doing that simultaneously.
really?
With the
Wow,
first
That would
season.
explain why he looked the same
but
age.
I almost did get Pet Cemetery 2 instead of Eddie Furlong for your.
All right.
for your
Oh,
little-
okay,
yeah,
okay.
yeah, exactly.
For my little
Your
Yeah.
weird little theory that you
Yeah,
had
yeah,
hooked up in your head.
Yeah, exactly. They almost took me out of camp and put me in Pet Cemetery.
that would have been awesome, huh?
But no, it was just random stuff like that. It was kind of so after that I went back to Hawaii, but it was weird, man. It was the 90s. I mean, talk about blow. There was everybody was doing a bunch of coke on the set, and there was like,
yeah, I'm still like of Salute Your Shorts. I mean, like it's
everybody was raging. In the 90s, they kept the crews coked up, and it was wild.
because this is my.
Did the crews offer it to the
They never offered it to us, but no, it wasn't like that.
It was just there. It was just
yeah,
kind of
they
like
were
if
just,
you wanted it,
it
you
was
could
like
find
a young guys, people in their 20s and 30s, and it was like kind of like
All right, who'd you hook up with on the show? Let's get names.
back then.
Yeah,
You-
who did you kiss on the
it.
cheek?
Of course, of course.
Who did I hold hand?
Who
Yeah.
did you just
How old,
dive
were,
face
how old
first
were
into a
you?
pile
Like
of blow with?
15, you said?
I
14?
started when I was 14, and then did it till I was like almost 16, I think.
Okay, so
Yeah.
yeah, you could have gotten some business
no,
done.
I was all about the wardrobe girls. Like I was like 15, and they were all giving me a lot of attention. They were like 22, 23.
So
years
you were
old.
like, yeah, I'm
And
big
I
time
was just
now.
all about them, even to this day.
Did you hook it
up
up or what? Did you get
No,
anything
I
done?
never did. I didn't. And yeah, I was a good kid at the time. I was like, going to prep school, and I think I had a little girlfriend at the time up at school, and it was
Oh,
like
man.
we trying to
Dude.
write each other love letters. And
How
I was
much do
letting
you
her wear
hate
my
yourself
Salute
for
Your
that
Shorts
now?
jacket. What's that?
How much do you hate yourself for that now?
Yeah, no.
When the wardrobe girls dance in his head, I'm sure the self-loathing
Yeah,
kicks
I
in.
still ask about some of them.
Ask around.
Now,
Hey,
yeah, they got to be like late 40s or something.
I bet they
probably.
remember. I bet they know.
Yeah.
hey, Eric, how you been?
They remember that longing look,
Exactly.
that yearning in the eyes.
You
when they
really
were-
grew into that body, didn't you? You want to give Nancy a lap dance?
Yeah, no. So it was kind of.
I don't know why wardrobe girls sound like bus
It was a
drivers.
crazy time, It was
Now
like,
they are.
in the 90s, it was just a different people. In running shows, it was different. People were like,
Yeah, here's so like in terms of like the age of the cast, were you towards the younger end of the spectrum, or were you kind of in the middle?
I was
or-
probably the middle.
yeah.
The one kid that played the kind of nerdy kid was pretty young, and the other one's Cooksey, redhead, is probably about 2 years older than me, and so is Donkey Lips.
hmm
But he was like, he and I were like, that was like my boy, like Cooksey and I were like, we go cause trouble, and we
So
hang
you-
out the
you guys
crew,
were
and we like
Getting wild.
Yeah, so we
Was this
and I was just
pre-
trying to keep up with him because he was very Hollywood at the time.
Was this
like,
pre
He'd
or
already done
post?
Terminator, right? So
he was a Terminator. James Cameron threw him a party at the Roxy with like strippers for his 16th birthday. Like I was like
Jeez,
hanging out
that's
with like Todd
that's
Bridges and
ridiculous.
shit back
So
then.
you were in the mix of just all kinds of like
Yeah,
all
it
the
was
like
like
child
young
celebrity
actors
stars
just starting with all that.
And
yeah.
then that and like Todd Bridges at that point, where was he in terms of the
He'd already
self-destruction?
been, I think, in and out of rehab
So
a few times.
So not the person to
Oh,
have
yeah,
around
yeah.
for a
I was-
16th birthday party.
Now it
basically.
kicks in different strokes.
There
I got
were,
it.
yeah, there was Eddie. It was
in.
all those kids. Eddie Furlong, all of them. Cameron, Yeah, there was a bunch of strippers. I remember like a limousine, like the whole nine.
And this was
like-
James Cameron's doing for his 16-year-old.
Yeah, yeah. Oops, I can't pull that one back.
It's okay.
Shout out to James Cameron.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, it was cool.
I'm
but-
glad I know that now.
But he was, you know,
Everybody at home is
that was
glad
first
as well.
exposure to Hollywood, though.
Yeah, I mean, it's got to be
Yeah.
wild now to kind of like, I feel like it's taking some distance away from it to be in the like right in the middle of just like,
Yeah, I grew up in a town of 4,000 people on an island,
and then next thing you know,
and I'd never seen anybody. I'd seen a few famous people that came down to the resort, but like all of a sudden, it's like you're like trying to get in the mix of like teenage Hollywood at the time.
which in the 90s is a
Now,
wild place.
contrast
It
and
was just kind
compare.
of fun. It was all about Alyssa Milano. I think that was the only reason why I moved to California at the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Alyssa Milano and Wardrobe Girls.
Yeah,
apparently.
in Wardrobe
And
Girls.
Phoebe Cates. Now let's contrast and compare, because that's the thing is like my recollection being I'm 33, so I don't
I'm
know where
older
that
than
would.
you. Yeah, yeah.
Okay, well I didn't know if that I feel like I watched it when I was like 12 or 13, so you're
Probably.
probably just a few years older than me.
Yeah.
But my recollection of that time, because I can remember, for instance, Nick Rocks, which
Nick. Okay.
Nick Rocks was like Nickelodeon trying to do an MTV VH1 TV show, but they would show like 5 or 6 Duran Duran videos.
Oh, okay.
You know what I mean? And I can remember, it's ironic, in fact, that you left Nickelodeon to go back to school, because like watching Nickelodeon made me never want to go to school, because I remember,
Right, right.
I remember there was an episode of Nick Rocks where they did an interview with some rock band. I want to say it was Motley Crue, but it may have been somebody else. But it was like a rock band I liked.
Right.
And they were talking to him about school. Did you do good in school and all this? And one of the guy goes, "No, I sucked at that." You know, I remember I was in math class, and they were like, "You're gonna need this when you're older." And he's like, "Man, I'm playing all these licks. I haven't added anything up in years." And
Right, right.
and I was like, "Yeah, rock and roll." So like, I just didn't like think from that day forth. I was like, math is stupid. So I still can't balance
job,
a checkbook
Nickelodeon.
or anything. So, but like I remember,
You're doing your demographic proud.
Good job, Viacom.
so this would have been so.
We're gonna put good job Viacom on the board. Right?
Good. So Nickelodeon was a fledgling network. They had You Can't Do That on TV. They had Salute Your
Sure.
Shorts. They had
Wild and Crazy Kids.
huh?
Well, the
Wild
big
and Crazy
ones-
Kids.
That would have been later.
No,
And then,
it
well, no,
wasn't.
at that time, the big ones were like, because they just started doing half-hour like scripted
Hey
shows.
Dude showed
Hey
up
Dude,
after
Dude was
you
on.
guys.
Clarissa.
Clarissa explains it all.
yeah, yeah.
All that was a
the
little bit
freshman
later.
or whatever.
Still
like,
still
ones
have
out
a
of Canada.
lifelong crush on Clarissa, by the way.
Yeah, yeah.
'cause
Um,
that's,
so
that's
much,
what I
but
was.
yeah.
I wanted to ask about that because
Well, yeah,
go ahead.
so
Mitch.
this,
No,
is
go
what
ahead.
this is what I'm getting into.
Yeah.
So they were like a
I would've
fledgling.
What's that?
Oh,
Sorry.
what's that? You would have been what now?
Well, no, back then I had a crush on her, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Didn't meet her.
Never met her. She was in Canada or something at the
Way to
time.
go, James Cameron. You could have set that up.
Yeah, exactly. She
Jesus.
could have been at the party.
Yeah. Strippers. Fuck that. Give me Clarissa. I want her to explain it all. You know what I'm saying?
You don't get a sound effect for that?
yeah.
Can I break something?
Oh, yeah, there we go. There you go.
Okay. Real class.
So, you gotta understand, I run the whole damn show on my own here. What I need is a staff, but
Interns.
yeah, we need to just get some
Should get
interns.
some
But
interns. Everybody needs a couple good interns.
the problem is the parking. Really, it's not the people.
They got bicycles.
So they were a fledgling network, and then in Disney, their TV shows were fucking pathetic. They had like
You're
they
right.
didn't even have like the Mickey Mouse Club was just shit. Really, like nobody paid attention. And then they had Mousercise, which for some reason I watched because
Yeah.
I'm an idiot.
Yeah.
And then there was like I'd watch
It was-
PBS, Sesame Street, and Today's Special and stuff like that. But then today it seems like as an adult, I know a number of network Nickelodeon shows, probably from billboards and whatever have you. I feel like if you'd have taken somebody my age and put them where I would have been back in the Salute Your Shorts days, and
Yeah.
been like, "Hey, do you know about Salute Your Shorts?" They'd be like, "Who?"
Mm.
They would have no idea. And I feel
Yeah.
like today it's this fucking booming. There was no Justin Bieber's back then.
No
No.
SpongeBob kind of thing. That's like a
There's no-
crossover
yeah.
cultural phenomenon.
Well, Ren and Stimpy, but that even again, that was like later.
No, you're right. There,
you
well, I
know?
mean,
that was about the closest
I mean, the
thing.
closest thing to Bieber would have been like the New Kids and all the other boy bands that were
That's
coming.
true.
It was like the boy band thing.
But that was, yeah, I guess
But I
that's
feel
true.
like we were.
forgot
I
about
feel like
that,
we were
that's
still a little bit away from that sophisticated targeting of. All right, we've got this demographic.
Yeah, I mean-
we need to cross over and bring
Yeah,
them to this. We need to build the
exactly.
bridge so you can go.
I mean,
from
now
this.
they come into your room while you're sleeping at night and tell you who you like, and they've been doing that for years. So
Yeah.
it's like, I mean,
So
we're
you
just
and
flooded.
Nickelodeon are still in cahoots on this. They tell you the plans.
Yeah. Well,
Once you're in the family,
Yeah, once you're in the
exactly.
Nickelodeon fraternity, you don't leave.
No.
we're gonna
Yeah,
get
but that's what
blackballed.
That's what it is. I mean, people are building people's career now with just flooding them like crazy, flooding the internet, flooding the market, building the whole nine. They have a plan, they get it done. There's a formula for everything.
You know what I never understood
There's
is
a formula for adults.
Right.
It's all of it.
I mean, it's got to be kind of strange for you to see this all play out now because you just kind of ended up going out doing an audition, and then you casting director sees you and is like, hey, come in for this audition, and then you do a couple more auditions. You're on a TV show, and then you're like, well, this is a bit more than I ever expected, but it wasn't some sort of cold calculated. We're going from the island to this thing,
No, it wasn't. It was I definitely established an interest in me to work in the business, but I think that happens to a lot of people that get exposed to it that young,
Yeah.
I mean, it was hard to go back to high school after that, and I did keep working a little bit towards the end of high school. It was just, it's hard. You get kids involved in that stuff, they just keep going, They kind of
Yeah, I mean, so like, what's the most surreal thing to go from being in LA and filming this, this big television show and hanging out at birthday parties that are just all big time and elaborate, and then you decide to just kind of basically
live the island lifestyle growing up as a kid, which was great. I mean, growing up out there the time that I did, I'm super thankful for it. It was really a great group of people, and we had a run of the place. Now I don't think being a teenager on the island that I'm from that we would have had anywhere near as much of a run of the place, and we caused a lot of trouble, man. I mean,
I was given to understand. I had a friend in just after high school that grew up in Hawaii, and he was saying that surfing was not only a class; it was like the first half of the day. I don't know if that's maybe he was skipping out on class. I don't know, but that was like
that motherfucker was truant.
Yeah, I didn't know, but like, was that part of the curriculum?
No. I mean,
like
I grew up
culture?
I grew up in kind of a little bit more of a country town that's like I guess 2,500 feet elevation. So I mean, we could surf all over, but we really did. I mean, we grew up in an underpopulated area with just all the outdoors, do whatever you want. So I mean, like your high school parties, you're out there on black sand beaches, with kegs and being able to surf at night and do whatever else. And
surfing at night sounds.
It was just great. It was it was.
Teddy's
a lot of
afraid of everything.
We just got we had a great time. It was just really like it was a really kind of safe area for and it was just I don't know, but it was
now do you
different.
do you go back there often?
Yeah,
Visit
yeah,
parents
I
and
go
all
back fairly often. I'm going back. I'm doing. I direct now, and I'm going back to shoot a movie in my town that I've been. I wrote on for like 2 years. I've been developing on it for like 3 years, and we're just
nice.
now. Yeah, we're just now ready to go. We're shooting this summer in August for about 5 weeks. It's like a little bit indie. It's like a. There'll be some names and stuff. We're closing up some deals on some people, so it will get. We're hoping at a decent shot of distribution, but
do some festivals and such.
Yeah, I mean, we'll probably. I think that we have some. We have some interest already, so we might really have a shot. There's a lot of commercial elements to it. It's a Hawaii story. I'm really trying to do an authentic film for the area that I grew up in. Kind of the flip side of the postcard is the way I like to see it.
Did you
It does seem like most Hawaii films are very touristy. Like the closest one I can think of is Forgetting Sarah Marshall. That's the most recent one I can think of.
Well, that's what I was thinking of.
And it was
Descendants.
focused on the
George Clooney movie that was the Oscar-nominated one, and he, that was kind of a thing that I read a lot about people saying how the island was treated in terms of the movie and the representations and such. Did you see that movie by chance? What did you think about that as a native?
Yeah, I mean, it was it was interesting because it was it covered an area of a group of people that a particular group of people in Honolulu, I guess, and I actually grew up with descendant families and whatever else, and they're very, excuse me, please, they were very on point with that. Yeah, it was decent. It was it definitely it got a lot of interest. Based off of the cast and what I like Alexander Payne. I thought it was good. Mine is it's a little bit tighter and smaller, and it's very.
Why is there no sitcoms based in Hawaii?
You mean like sitcoms, meaning like half-hour comedies or like series?
Either, I guess.
Because they've done series. They've tried to do. Hawaii Five-0 is incredibly successful right now. But
that's it. The reboot. Yeah, the reboot.
But I was on a show called The Birds of Paradise when I was.
Saw that in your IMDb. Don't know what it is. I apologize.
I was a junior or senior in high school, and it was I did a recurring thing. They had 13 episodes, and it was Seth Green, Jennifer Love Hewitt, and Timothy Busfield.
What channel was this on? What
it was on ABC.
Was this after? So this is after Salute Your Shorts.
After Salute Your Shorts. It was my
before you
first
went
job
back?
after Salute Your Shorts.
Okay, so you're still in LA.
No, I'm back in Hawaii.
Back in Hawaii,
but I still have an agent.
Okay.
And then they hooked me up with a decent gig on that. But they only aired like 7 episodes. They shot 13. It was Steven Bochco. You guys remember Bochco?
Yeah. Was he the one who did Cop Rock?
Yeah, exactly. Which was right around the time of Salute Your Shorts. Yeah. Yeah, I know. Anytime a cop breaks
Cop
out
Rock,
in song.
Bro, do you not know Cop Rock? Cop Rock.
Do you remember Whole High? Do you remember Whole High?
I don't know Whole High.
Whole High was the high school musical that Michael Bauer, Donkey Lips, was actually on prior to Salute Your Shorts.
Mitch, how you not know Cop Rock?
Yeah.
Cop Rock is like one of the greatest debacles of all time, bro. It's
Yeah.
like a musical about police officers in the police station, and they're like singing about going out to fight crime.
Yeah.
It is everything that you could possibly imagine it would be.
It was actually, I think what they did, because it was Bochco, they did Cop Rock, and then that didn't work out so well, so they got rid of the music and made it NYPD Blue.
Boom! Inception!
Yeah,
Inception!
Yeah, exactly.
Minds have been
We're
blown.
going to start with a musical, and then we'll go backwards.
Oh, yeah, there it is.
There you go. Got your Inception sound. No, I guess what I'm saying is it doesn't. I mean, perhaps it's just the fact that the filming would be a pain in the ass, but it doesn't seem like there's any
Authenticity, kind
the
of?
Office, Parks and Recreation Community, something like that.
A comedy.
A sitcom without the fucking laugh track. A modern day sitcom, I guess they
Based
call it.
in
What do
Hawaii
you call
or
that?
actually filming in Hawaii? I guess that would be the
Both.
distinction. Because
Both.
it would be
I'm sure like the closest thing, and it's going to sound terrible, but the closest thing I can think of to like a movie that made any attempt to represent day-to-day life in Hawaii was Lilo and Stitch.
that was a good movie. I enjoyed that.
I like
I loved
that.
it too.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I don't know how accurate it is.
I don't know. I mean, if you did a comedy in Hawaii, it's like...
It's just the fact that they'd have to
essentially,
fly
if
all
you're
these
doing a comedy in
fucking
Hawaii, you're actually
uppity
shooting
actors.
at North Hollywood on a set, and then you're doing B Unit out there, like, you know, to
Yeah.
pick up. But it's not. I don't know what the basis of a comedy. I mean, yeah, I guess there's a bunch.
Well, I
of
guess what
different-
I'm thinking is
I
like,
don't-
okay,
I
look,
don't
you
know
can
what to turn
do,
this into a
you
story
can do
meeting,
a,
but,
you can do a. Well, what I'm saying
All
is
right,
like,
get your pictures out
Yeah,
there,
yeah,
buddy.
exactly.
there's a billion comedies about like couple of like
They could do like a northern exposure of Hawaii.
Well, I'm saying like there's
Right.
there's movie or there's TV shows where it's like, oh, a couple of 20-somethings living in New York, a couple of 30-somethings living in New York, a couple of 20-somethings living in L, just doing their thing in L.A. or in Texas or wherever. Hawaii is a very interesting, especially the fact that it's even part of our country. Is
To some people, it's technically not.
well, they're all assholes, but it's such an especially because it's the only United State that used to be a kingdom, which is awesome.
Texas.
And it's like there's a lot of interesting like lore really to Hawaii.
Oh yeah.
There's still
And
a
I feel
movement in
like-
Hawaii they want independence. There's still aspects I've read before.
Right, and but
Oh yeah, the sovereignty movements.
Right.
It's
Right.
still definitely a big.
but it's such an interesting because it's like most people who know of Hawaii know it only in a very touristy aspect.
yeah. I mean, that's really like what.
So a day-to-day life, even if it's droll and just
Yeah.
every
Was that
day,
kind of what you're-
with
That's
the
what I'm trying to
backdrop
do.
of Hawaii.
I mean, I'm
All
trying
right,
to
yeah.
I'm trying to take actors that you've known and seen and whatever else, but I'm trying to really make it authentic, like, you know, City of God's an authentic Brazilian movie.
Right,
I'm really
yeah.
trying to show. I mean, they have a certain way that they speak. They have a certain way that they carry themselves. There's
Sure,
certain things
sure.
that they, you know, just the way that they like
Everyday
anything else.
people like
I mean, it's
Teddy
like, you know, it's like
Tutson, Mitch
Spike Lee-
Marzoni,
when
just
Spike Lee
in
does
Hawaii,
stuff in New York,
just
he gets the
doing a
neighborhoods
movie.
right, you
Right.
know. So it's trying to do that. I feel like that no one's really kind of come along the lines of that.
So is
you
that
know?
kind of what the production process has been a lot for you, trying to make sure that you can capture the authenticity of where you grew up?
Yeah, I mean
and
that's
making
what
sure-
really took me so long to write this thing that I wanted to do. I was basing out of Hawaii for like 2 years. I mean, I've been kind of working and directing and for a few years now and producing as well. And I was basing out of there doing some commercial work and some other stuff. And then I was there for 2 years and I moved back to LA about 3 years ago. I just sat down and wrote it and really was kept hammering out to make sure that I got it the way that I needed it. But yeah, I mean it's really doing it right. I mean, when you try to go bigger, initially when I started doing it, I was doing with a larger production company and they wanted me to go bigger and make it sort of like a thing where it was like really commercial and whatever else. But when you start to work in movies that are like $5 million and under, and you're doing the indies, you kind of have the freedom to go in and make something gritty and authentic.
kind of hit a sweet spot. Kind
Yeah,
of with the
you know.
budget.
Sure,
I mean,
sure.
so, and I think that I think these days especially, people, if they see something different, they go out and they want to watch it.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
It doesn't matter what it is. It could be in a foreign language. I mean, it could be
Right.
what was the artist? It was a silent movie. I mean, or
Yeah.
was it, I didn't
I'm
even
all
see it.
about I'm all about any show that lasts for 4 seasons on HBO or Showtime. I feel like that's all that I want to see anymore. 'Cause
Once you figured
movies-
out that the seasons took place, now it's 4 seasons. Is what you're saying, right?
Boom, roasted.
Yeah.
MacArthur put 2 on the board, son. He done put 2 on the board.
I want to run the
You
sound
can go
effects.
ahead and
over
write
there,
down
yeah,
once you figured out seasons.
I'll
if
put
you
that
want
on
it,
the
since
board.
you
Oh, 2 on the board. Huh? I got 2 up on the board.
Yeah. And there's 2 boards happening right now. There's the board of writing
Yeah,
stuff
yeah.
and the board of Eric just burning you.
Yeah.
I'm
sorry,
solid. No.
So you said 4 seasons of what?
You know what? I'm very proud of you right now. Prior to the, just before the show started, I was telling Eric about the show, and I said, we do a lot of like comics, just riffing with each other. And he says, I'm not a comedian. I said, don't worry, you'll do fine. And right out the gate, he's like, I know what I'm gonna do.
Oh, this motherfucker don't know about seasons.
Oh shit! I'm
your
gonna get
ass.
this dude.
I got your ass.
Listen,
What I'm saying is, a movie I really like. There's that thing where I'm like, oh, but it's over too soon. Land of the Dead is a perfect example.
Right.
That movie to me was really good, but what I hated about it the most was what it was like at least 2 hours too short. So I'm like, if you did Land of the Dead, I know that and I actually just recently got into The Walking Dead, and I'm like, okay, they're doing a pretty decent job, but I like Land of the Dead because it was at the very end where it was like the rich people figured out, oh, we can take over a skyrise, build a moat, and we're fucking solid, no problems here, and it's such a cool vibe and whatever. Anyway, my point is, some movies end too soon. And TV shows, I don't like commercials, and there's no boobies or cussing. And but like HBO and Showtime, they do a really good job. The only issue I have with them is that there seems to be 4th season is where you should end, because after 3rd season, I feel like they go, oh, I didn't know we were gonna last this long.
it's a nightmare.
That's
And
mixed it
then
up now.
by about 5th season, you're like, well, 3 people die, and
Yeah.
2 of them sprout wings.
And,
you
even
know.
at that point, the actors are looking at each other, going, "Jesus, can we go do something else?" I mean,
Oh, yeah.
people are just bouncing off of each other. Like everybody's phoning it in at that point. The writers, the actors, no one has anything else.
That's
Yeah.
They're
kinda
looking at old TV shows, trying to come up with ideas, and the timings. Yeah, it's
It really-
And I got to imagine if you stick around as as a young actor, especially, or a first time, like this is your big break. If
Right.
you do something for more than 5 seasons, that's you for life.
yeah.
That's
Oh,
what
yeah.
happens to so many like different strokes comes to mind.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people on Seinfeld that have had like 0 success since then because you go, oh well, that's Elaine, or
Yeah,
that's,
it's just
you know.
so much. I mean,
Well, to
especially
be-
being in
she's
syndication
actually,
so long.
I would say of all the Seinfeld, if you take away even if you include Seinfeld himself, I guess he hasn't really tried to do too much.
No,
minus,
I know
like,
he's just
B-movie,
pretty much
whatever.
doing comedy
But
and shit. Yeah,
Julia Louis-Dreyfus has probably had the most successful post-Seinfeld career of everyone. She, even though the new and old adventures of old Christine or whatever, that show, she had a sitcom on
It
CBS for a
seems
couple
like
seasons.
most of the stuff she's
Veep
done since then
is a-
references Seinfeld, which is the smartest way to go.
I don't necessarily agree with a Veep that she's doing on HBO
I haven't
right
seen
now.
that, I'm sorry.
seems to be, I haven't seen it either, but everyone that I know who sees it is raving about it right now.
I like the idea. I mean,
Yeah, but is she? I mean, like
she's
Michael,
talented. She's
Yeah, yeah.
definitely
Yeah,
talented.
she's
I guess-
done. She
I
was on
guess
Arrested Development for a couple of
Yeah.
arcs.
Yeah, yeah.
She's been very successful, I would say.
I probably spoke too soon because she was also in a lot of things
3 out of 4
beforehand.
is half
But
tough.
I feel like I shouldn't have picked her. I just was. That's the first. I don't
Right.
know much about Seinfeld. I'm sorry, so I should not
You
have
ain't
picked
no
that
kind
one.
of white person.
Anywho,
She's
I know I'm not white enough to be white and too white to be black. I'm in this weird
Catch 22, bro.
grayish brown area. Like I don't know. Anyway. So that does happen because you get used to seeing somebody in a thing, and you're like, well, that's who they are to me now, and
it's a lot of the yeah.
that's why I feel like the worst job you could ever have, and I mean worse than jizz mopper. I literally the worst job,
We have established Mitch's floor on the hierarchy of jobs.
worst job in the history of worst jobs. And I mean this sincerely, and I've said it before. Worst job ever would be a recurring character in a commercial, like the Flow.
Can you hear me now?
You
guy.
can, well, kind of, yes.
Well,
but
no one can
very
really
similar.
recognize
Yeah,
it. But
that's
how many
true.
commercials? I mean,
Right. I mean, that guy's
I'm
got
thinking.
silly money.
I'll give you a
it's
perfect
ridiculous.
example. The guy, dude, you're getting Adele, the Dell dude, as some people would
Oh,
call
that
him.
dude, yeah.
Right. He. I remember, like on Gizmodo one day, there was like a photo, like, look, it's the Dell dude in a gay bar. I was like, who cares?
Well, he also had the big thing.
Well,
where he-
hold on,
Yeah,
but
go ahead.
more to the point. Then he got busted with like on a
was
weed
like
charge.
years ago, I thought.
Yeah, I know. He got busted on weed charge. So Dell was like, "Listen, we can't have you representing us because now you're living up to the exact character we wrote for you." So no more Dell commercials for the guy. However, you can't see him anything else because you'd be like, "Isn't that the Dell dude?"
It is hard. I mean, these commercial actors that overexpose like that, that's really
Flow
I
is
mean,
fucked.
It's strange because
That's
I've
all I
known
gotta say.
actors that like that work in commercials nonstop, and they have ones that go on forever, and you see them all the time. But it's rare that they're ever getting into television or movies because it's like.
And that,
Well,
this is why
I feel like
this
you've
is why
seen-
I
mean,
say
you're
it's-
probably right. It's like an early overexposure.
here's
in the
why
marketing
real
game or
quick. Here's
something.
why I say it's the worst job ever because it's not enough money to retire on. It's just enough to exposure to where people recognize you.
I think the Verizon guy might disagree with you on that one.
Yeah, yeah.
There's no way he's retiring on that.
Are
But
you
anyway.
kidding? How long has that dude had a dude? That guy went for
That
10
guy's
years.
made some money. I
That
don't
guy,
know. Yeah.
Jared from
All
Subway.
right, all right.
Listen,
well,
come
look.
on. Make your
as an
argument, and then I'm
actor-
going to rebut.
Okay, all right. As an actor, I don't feel like that's not Sopranos money. That's not Seinfeld money. Whatever. Look, my point is, it's not ridiculous, stupid cash. It's a lot, but it's not fucking ridiculous. I don't think they get like syndication rights and shit.
AKA
okay?
fuck you money
But
is what
you
you're
get-
trying to say, right?
You
don't
get
Right.
fuck you money from the commercial.
you get the recognition to where you can't, for instance, be the Dell dude just hanging out in a gay bar, whether or not you're just hanging out with your friends. Who cares why he's there? But the point is that like the reason that was an article is because people recognized him. So you get the recognition, the part you don't want, but without the like, oh my God, I love your work in the Dell commercials, which you don't get. You don't get that respect. Plus, you're pegged forever as that person in that commercial. So
true.
you're
Fair.
fucked up for TV
Okay.
and movies forever.
That's
and
fair.
it's not fucking so much cash that you can just be like, well, I don't need to act ever again.
Okay, but here's the other side of the coin, all right? Not everyone, I feel like, has those ultimate ambitions. Do you know what I mean? Some people are like, I hit the mother load. If I land a commercial spot for 7 years, I'm set. I don't give a fuck. Like, I work to get this gig. Do you know what I mean? Like, I work to get this fucking Flow gig, so, like, I'm paid. And, yeah, maybe you don't have Sopranos money, but you've got 6 years of Progressive auto insurance. You've got fucking TV ads, you've got print ads, you've got radio ads, you've got now mobile ads, you've got online ads. That's a shitload of money for someone. And there's a fucking...
think?
Yes, I
You
know.
think they get a syndication
Yeah,
for
they
that?
don't get syndication. They get paid for all those spots, Mitch. There's not just TV ads. There's radio ads. There's print ads. There's all kinds of fucking
I
ads.
guess that's true. They can become a spokesperson. at
That's
that
what
point,
they
yeah.
are. They're not just an actor anymore.
My
They're a
my dad
spokesperson.
defends
They are
Flo
getting-
left and right, and
He
he
gets
says like
shitloads of money.
he's like, oh well,
She has no
Flo.
worries.
He's like, well, Flo is a comedian. That's what you need to get into. I was like, listen, Dad, I'm never going to be a commercial. You know what I mean? Like a regular in a commercial. That's all I'm saying.
And I guess there's a difference between you and me, Mitch. Like, you and me would not take a Progressive auto ad. Do you know what I'm saying?
Right.
Because that's not what our ambitions are.
Sure.
But for a lot of people, to get a 7-year gig that gets you in all kinds
But here's where I say it's the worst job. Here's where the issue is. Now, maybe Verizon guy could retire on that.
He
And I'm-
could. He did.
Okay.
He is retired.
That's fine.
He's done.
You know what? Kudos.
He is
Here's-
done, Mitch. That Verizon guy is well paid.
But
Okay.
however,
Them's
this
his facts.
my point is
You're
this.
still talking about the Verizon guy, huh? Shit.
It's a point of heated debate.
The difficulty is now he walks down the street and everybody's going to be, hey, can you hear me now? Can you hear me now?
If
Can
he
you hear me
doesn't
now?"
wear his glasses, I don't think they know.
No
who
one
he
knows.
is.
Maybe,
That guy
maybe.
dyes his hair, fucking gets a new
Maybe
haircut.
he's
No one knows who
okay.
the fuck that guy is.
Yeah,
He
yeah,
grows
yeah.
his hair out. He doesn't wear a dumpy ass
you're
gray
As long as
jumpsuit.
he doesn't say, "Can you hear me now?" He's fine.
You are taking a very specific piece out of a giant pie.
I'm not actually.
Okay.
I feel like
That-
it's
I'm
very
literally just talking-
indicative.
You're talking about that
I understand
guy.
what your point
Thank
is.
you.
I get it.
Eric
I
is on my
guess-
side.
No,
Get
I don't.
it.
No, here's
Hold
my
on,
other thing.
Hold on. Hold
no,
on. This is
Mitch,
what I'm
hold
saying.
on.
Because
Hold
I
on.
didn't finish my
You
sentence.
have finished your sentence.
No, because you.
But the money is good. I'm
not saying it isn't. What I'm
Money
saying
You
is
did
good.
kind of say that.
For the
you
rest-
did kind of say that.
I
for
did
the
one
rest of your
commercial,
life-
it was good money.
For the rest of your life, if you're a regular in a TV commercial, right?
yeah.
Flo is a really good example. The Adele dude is another really good example. Remember the Micro Machines guy? Swallowed it not this one, but this one really
No,
fast
but I remember
talking
where
The
guy.
guy
the
was in all
beef.
kinds of commercials. He
Yeah,
was
I
in
know.
FedEx commercials.
So he was good.
For example.
But whatever. Okay, fine. Let's just go with Flo. Let's stick with Flo, even though she's a comedian. Whatever. But I'm saying that Del dude's. Let me go Del dude because that's the guy. Because
I don't even remember
Because-
Dale, dude.
because there might be
And
a
I
part
rest
of
my
you
case.
that you walk down the street and you go, all right, you Del dude. Like that's his thing, right? Like he'll be recognized. That's your thing. So
Right.
you get the recognition where somebody will like, Del dude, hey, dude, you're gonna Del, blah blah. but you don't get all the cool respect. You don't get all the incoming money for abs.
You don't get the girls.
You don't get the chicks. That's
Right,
true.
right, right.
Who did you fuck last night? Remember the dude from the Verizon commercial?
Yeah,
oh my
yeah.
god.
I guess here's the thing though, Mitch. Like, I guess the point is that like I feel like we're discounting how good commercial
Worse
money
than a
is.
jizz mopper.
How good commercials are.
No, how good commercial money is.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I've been hearing different things. I heard it's not as good as it was like 5-10 years ago.
So it started to dry up a
I
little
don't,
bit.
yeah, I don't know. I haven't. I worked on a.
Pretty sure Flo got hers.
I haven't worked in commercials in like 10 years. I only did one. I couldn't stand auditioning for them.
I mean, I've been at production
I'm
companies
with
that
you. I
have done
can't stand
commercials.
auditions in general.
And
Ugh,
I guess the other thing
commercial
too is like if you, I mean, and I sat in on commercial auditions. I've seen the way the advertising agencies
Yeah.
I've read the scripts. I've had to like. I mean,
Yeah.
I've seen.
Oh, yeah. It's
I
a
mean,
whole-
I've seen how it all unfolds in real time, and I've seen the people that come in, and I've seen those people end up on commercials, and like you see
Yeah.
them do an audition, and they don't even talk in the commercial, and it's just
Yeah.
it's a total soul killing enterprise. You know what I mean?
Sure.
But if you land one of those real plum commercial spots, that takes you years upon years upon years. And that's kind of why I feel like the example is a bit faulty, because you're talking about elite commercial talent. Those people are set. And then underneath them, you have the recurring commercial actors who just keep popping up in all kinds of
Oh
commercials.
yeah, I mean I know guys
And
who
they're
do 6 or
set
7 a
too.
year, like,
And
no
they
problem.
get plenty of attention. So, like, I just can't give you as much as you're saying in your argument because they have money. They get a lot of recognition, and if you're the Dell guy, most people don't even know who the fuck you are anymore.
You know what blows my mind is like I know certain actors and they'll be like the same. They have kind of most of the guys I hire for commercials are just kind of like a schmucky looking dude, right? I mean they love that schmucky looking.
Sure.
And I know like certain actors that I see them in like 6 or 7 different like major spots at a time, like
Right.
six major spots at a time, playing the same guy pretty much for different companies.
Yeah.
And it's just, I mean, maybe because I know who they are. I recognize them, but I'm just curious as to. I mean, I would think the viewing public would
You'd
be
be like,
I saw that guy in this commercial, but they do. Like once they kind of get working, they're like all of a sudden become that schmucky guy that they need. That's like the go-to schmuck.
Yeah, I mean, and it's you.
Sure,
I mean, and,
sure.
and that's some people's. That's the goal. Like once you get in that circuit, you're set. You don't have
Once you
that. You
become
don't
the
need the
go-to schmuck.
aspiration of going above schmucky commercial actor. What's left? You've hit the jackpot, and I guess that's kind of why I feel like it's a limited perspective that you're presenting because you don't need to go beyond that. Do you know what I mean? If you hit flow status, you're done.
You know what's interesting?
You don't go out for more auditions after you get to flow status. You're done. You can retire.
You're not going to
The
see
Verizon guy isn't auditioning for anything because what's the point?
Hold on. You're not going to see Flo or the Verizon guy doing any more commercials.
They're not even auditioning.
I know you're not. That's not even what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, look, take Flo or the Verizon guy in 30 years. It's unlikely the money they made from those commercials at this time is still going to be there
That's
in
'cause
20,
they
30 years.
diversify their portfolio, son.
Got to
Yeah,
diversify
exactly.
your funds.
Yeah,
Wu-Tang
That's a
style.
personal problem.
yeah.
I'm sure it is, but therein lies the. It's
Okay,
it's
Jared
it's,
from
it's
Subway.
honestly
that dude gonna have money in
it's
30
the
years.
same. Well, his thing is not about commercials. His thing is he's endorsed by Subway as it's like
And he appears in commercials.
it's like other than Tiger Woods up until very recently with his scandals and such, Tiger Woods endorsed by everybody. It was like, hey, Nike will pay you $100,000 a day if you just point at a dude while wearing a wristband,
Right.
whatever the fuck. So that's a different thing. But what I'm saying is, outside of diversifying of the portfolio, it's that thing where I'm talking about like the long term, the 20, 30 years.
Okay.
I feel like, for instance, I saw in Mad Men, Flo was in a Mad Men, like early on, first season, she was one of the call in the operator's room. And that may have filmed before even the Flo commercials aired. But she was one of the girls. I remember recognizing her. Hey, it's Flo, haven't seen her in anything since then. My dad says she's a stand-up comedian. He's always talking to me like, that's what you need to get into. I was like, let me tell you, Dad, that's worse than a jizz mopper. So it's that recognition, but you can't parlay that into TV or movies because you're already recognized as this thing. And that's the big thing that directors seem to hate is they want that sort of either a blank slate or you're just a wildly famous person for a lot of things.
Right.
And I think that if you're wildly famous for one thing, that's what fucks people. That's why, for instance, there were so many child actors that fucking went astray because they started on a TV show when they were 3 years old and then followed it through till they were like 15, and then the show ended, and you know them as Emmanuel Lewis or not Emmanuel Lewis.
You know them as this one guy.
Yeah, whatever. They know you know them as the character
Right, yeah.
Todd Briggs, right? Or Todd Biggs. Bridges.
Yeah.
Willis.
Terrible.
What you
Willis,
talking about?
right?
Yeah.
What you talking about, Willis? And you know,
Yes.
you
Gary
know,
Coleman.
little
yes.
guy, Gary Coleman. Thank you, Gary Coleman. Everything he did after that was references to him in different. He was like a parody character and things like this. Dude was like working security as a parking lot, things like
Yeah.
that. It was a lot of terrible,
Right.
fucked up things. Unfortunately for the guy, where there was nothing else to do. So that's what I'm talking about is that thing where directors go, I only see you as this thing because the public only sees you as this thing. Now, if that thing is commercials, I feel like you'll never get, like, for instance, syndication money and things like that.
Okay, that's fair.
So,
So
I
this is a
don't
good
know.
way. This is a good way to segue because now you
And you only see
now.
him 30 seconds at a time, so it's not really a character that people are going to be like, I want to fuck that dude.
Well, this is okay.
No,
and, then,
yeah.
and now we know what Mitch's whole point comes down
Commercial
to.
actors really get the girls. What's that?
Well, that was basic.
We can move on from this. I just wanted to.
But no, it's a
I was
good. It's a
hoping
good
I
way
could do
to.
a quick 1 minute thing and we'd move on.
It was
but
a
I'm
good.
sorry.
It's a good segue now because you do more writing
Sorry,
and
once
directing.
Eric looked at his watch,
Yeah,
I was like, oh,
I
shit,
don't
we
act
bored him.
anymore.
Right. So you've kind of given up. Not necessarily given up, but you've transitioned away.
Oh
from
yeah,
that
no, I
necessarily.
stopped acting. God, I was about almost 10 years ago, 10 years ago.
So
The
you're
Paris Hilton movie.
Well, no,
did you
before
direct that or did you act in
I
that?
wrote and directed that.
But
I
before that,
co-wrote and directed that.
you did. It's Life Makes Sense if you're famous, right?
Which
that was
a-
before
which
that.
was a short film. Yeah, it was a
And you
short
did with some
film.
Paul Walker,
Yeah,
Scott
and that was
Conn.
just to give me a crack at directing.
So how did that whole thing come about? Because you get Paul Walker and Scott Conn in there.
Well,
and
they were friends of mine,
Right.
And I worked on a movie called We Were Soldiers with Mel Gibson, and it was like one of the bigger jobs that I had gotten, and it was kind of a bummer because when the final cut of the movie came in, it was like 3 hours and 20 minutes long. So
Was that theatrical time?
no, they had to cut it. They had to cut it
Again.
down to 2 hours
I was gonna
because
say, no
it was
way.
based off of a book, and we were all playing real life guys.
Right.
So Randall Wallace came in and cut out, a couple of major storylines.
That seems like one of those projects that would have been better served as like an HBO miniseries.
Yeah, it probably was. But
Like
it was kind of, but it was
a
kind of like that. I mean, he
Band of Brothers kind of
yeah,
thing.
he followed the lives of all these different guys. I played a real life guy. A friend of mine who was like my best friend played a real life guy, and we had a storyline because my head gets blasted open and this whole nine and whatever. So when they cut that, I was just really, I had wanted to get into directing and whatever else, but excuse me, I just was, I kind of at that point was just feeling like I wanted to, make the focus to go out and do that. So I had some money from working on that movie, and I paid for a short film, and I put those guys in it, and then that was my focus at that point. After that was to try and get in and do a feature, and then it's just been kind of ups and downs since then. I mean, my first feature was with some really, really bad producers, and it took a really long time to get it finished, and then I wasn't sure, when it was going to be when I was going to do another one, and then now I'm
And
back.
what'd you base the short on for
That was just
kind
a
of-
original idea that I had in my head that was kind of a thing where it was, I mean, you guys probably haven't seen it. It's on, I think it's on Netflix now or something, part of a thing. But it was just kind of about, it was like a young Hollywood sort of thing, like kind of very Entourage-esque prior to Entourage kind of
Right.
thing, where it was,
I mean, you kind of had a little bit of that's kind of like your real life story. I mean, you go high school style, just
yeah, it
dropped
was
off
just
the
kind of, we were
island
just
and then-
messing around. I mean, but it was good enough where we had, I had some real talented friends that really came in and helped me, get it looking right and feeling right, and we had something kind of cool, and I ended up getting distribution on it, even though it was a short film and the whole nine, and kind of got it around town to some people, and got some support to get my, first directing gig.
How did you even meet? How do you meet those guys exactly? Are you just doing projects around town, or just
Yeah,
kinda
they were
hanging
old
out?
friends, It was like through friends and stuff. They had been tight friends of mine. Both those guys have been tight friends of mine since I was probably like 18, 19 years old. So, yeah, I mean,
Just
kinda,
called up and like, hey, I'm trying to work on a
Well,
project.
no, they're like guys that I hung out with all the time. I mean, they're like family to me. Those kids, they, it's everybody. We were just same age, doing the same stuff, and we're friends back then, and been friends through. So it's
Right.
yeah, it's good. They're still really close friends. So it's but yeah, but acting, I just didn't really want to keep auditioning and doing that stuff forever. I'd always wanted to get into directing.
So you do that, and then Bottoms Up comes a little bit later on,
Which was a nightmare.
right. So Bottoms Up to set the stage for
still talk
Riffopolis
about
here. It's you. So you write and direct that.
Yeah, I
and,
co-wrote it with a buddy of mine.
and
yeah.
you get Jason Mewes,
Yeah.
Kevin Smith,
Paris Hilton.
And then Paris Hilton comes in.
Now,
Paris
There's
Hilton
another
first.
friend of yours that was also
Paris
in.
Hilton first.
Okay, life makes sense of your fame. There was a third
Now
friend
was
of yours.
wait
Damon or
the
something?
bottoms up was this before her the whole sex tape thing and everything?
No, we got her. That was kind of the whole gimmick behind the whole thing, is that we had a little movie that we wanted to push around and get made, and she had just gotten really famous off the sex tape thing. I think was right at the same time. It was Simple Life.
Yeah.
All then I don't know.
Sex tape, Simple Life.
I don't know what
Yeah.
year that was. but
What's
it was
interesting
crazy.
about her is like it's one of those things that I think that like I didn't know who the fuck she was when that sex tape came out, and I worked for the company that was releasing it at the time. But
What was that? Red whatever.
well, like I worked
Right.
not like at their company, but with them, sort of. I guess I should say. But so I saw it like the night before they were like, oh,
right.
we're gonna send it.
No, I had friends who had copies of that prior to it coming
Yeah,
out.
So
yeah.
you were.
They were like,
so it was
hey,
like
tomorrow,
working its way
they were like,
around.
tomorrow
It
we're
was. It
sending
was
this
around
to-
town.
But what's interesting is like, yes, they were like, tomorrow we're sending this to Howard Stern.
Like
was
I heard,
who-
like it was like at Danny Masterson's house or something, and all these people were going and seeing
before
it.
it blew. So
What-
before
what's-
it,
I don't
before
know,
I
I
get
don't
to
know.
you,
what I was saying is like, what's interesting is that I had no idea who this girl was and whatever. And I remember one of the guys I worked with,
Meanwhile, in
said
Hollywood.
we're sending this
Yeah,
off.
right.
So we're sending this off to Howard Stern tomorrow. It's going to bring a bunch of traffic. So we got our banners on the thing. We need you to make banners for the site so that we can get clicks over to our stuff. And I said, all right, cool. I'll take care of it. And I was like, who is this girl anyway? And they're like, oh, she's Paris Hilton. I was like, you mean like Hilton, like the Hilton? And they're like, yeah. And I was like, holy shit. And I like looked her up. And at this time, this is a day before the sex tape broke. All she'd ever done really, like it was like her lot in
Show
life
up at a club.
was she did a bunch of indie like horror
Oh,
films.
she had done some
like I
stuff.
was
She had
like
acted a little
she
bit.
did like B horror movies. That's like her whole. She was
kind of
like
the
a
same
queen
things
of that
she did afterwards, like
Yeah,
she did
yeah.
House of Wax.
And it was
or
interesting
whatever.
that she sort of stuck with that, and people who were already probably in production with her on a lot of these films were like, "Oh, this is gonna be
Cashing
awesome.
in.
We're finally
Yeah,
like
yeah.
House of Wax is a perfect
All of a
example."
sudden, she was worth money overseas and stuff.
Yeah,
right,
but it's
yeah.
like, that's why I wondered if you were
Yeah,
like, "Oh,
no,
we're just gonna do this little thing."
I
and-
actually went out to New York, and I was trying to get the first version prior to getting with producers of that movie was called The Cheese Ride Shotgun, and that was our original name. And
Cheese Ride Shotgun.
Yeah.
It turns into Bottoms Up.
which turns into Bottoms Up. It got all out of way. It was, it was
we
a
are
whole
definitely
nine.
putting Cheese Ride Shotgun
Yeah,
on the board.
Cheese Ride Shotgun, and
P.S. What the fuck is a cheese
the
ride?
Cheese
shotgun?
Ride Shotgun was the guy that I was writing with on that. So the classic guy, this guy Nick Ball. I'll give him a shout out, right? Shout on the iPad.
Shout him out.
Yeah, right. And
Terrible at those.
so it was just it was a funny comedy thing, and we I was putting it together out of a management company and with some people that we had contacts around town as far as agents and everything else was concerned, and so I went out to New York and I met up with Sean Hattasey. You know who he is? Sean Hattasey. He's been in a bunch of stuff, and Anna Paquin,
Yeah.
okay,
and they were doing a play together in New York, and I was trying to get the two of them to do it, and they both passed on it. And I was all bummed out.
Should've
And
brought
and
some of
like
that.
Rachel Lee Cook read it and she passed on it, and I was like, I remember like having like a headshot in the office of like Rachel Lee Cook with glasses and like warts and a beard and the whole nine. I was pissed off at Rachel Lee Cook.
we got our new office dartboard, kids.
I love how it just turned into like a real, just dark moment, like fucking Rachel Lee Cook with warts, and just turned that bitch.
yeah,
Just,
Rachel Lee Cook. Really bummed me out. And then where was I going with this? So then Paris, I think right around, and I'd kind of known Paris before. I had met her a few times, and she'd always been around town and whatever else. But I had friends that real tight with her. But I think all that stuff started happening right at that time, and I was thinking about her for the short that I was doing years prior. Or like a year or two prior.
this is with Paul Walker.
Yeah,
and those guys?
yeah. Because it was supposed to be about a studio head's daughter, like a girl that was like really in the mix in Hollywood.
That would
So
have been very perfect for Life Makes More Sense if you're famous.
Right.
That would have been strangely apt. I feel like, for Paris
So that
Hilton.
was why when it came up, when Paris was all of a sudden getting really famous, and it was right around the time of the porn tape and whatever. They were down shooting House of Wax down in Australia, and we were talking to our agent, and then my boy Johnny Abrahams. I don't know if you guys know who he is. He's an actor. He's like in Scary Movie and a bunch of stuff. He was working on House of Wax. He acted in that. And I just told him, I was like, Johnny, you got to get her to read it. You got to get her to read it. And he got her to read it. And then she wanted to do it after she read it. And then it was like, it was cool. And I like Paris. I've always liked Paris. And I was, stoked for what it was for the comedy and whatever. That was great. But the people that were following and coming behind based off of her popularity like the advertisement guys, the
circus kinda
producers, and the
thing.
circus that was following her was a fucking nightmare.
So how
Like
how
the
much
worst
how long
people
was the
you could have ever
production
put together.
Did you so that you like Kevin, so like you get Paris Hilton in, and then Jason and Kevin Smith and those guys, like
This
did that
would have
come-
been like in the middle of Jason Mewes' heroin addiction too.
Jason Mewes was just like sober at the time for like 4 or 5 months.
just enough to
and,
be able to
he, and
shoot.
he was weird as all hell. You know, he was like
He was in the middle of a heroin
yeah,
breakdown.
he was
kind
like
of?
he was still detoxing or some shit, and I like wanted me to give him line readings the whole time, and it was just like I don't, you know, and Kevin Smith wouldn't let him cut his hair, and it was, and then I had
'Cause
Dave.
were they shooting something else after they were
They
done
were
with
shooting,
Bottoms
like,
Up?
I think they were shooting Clerks 2.
Yeah, I
after
was gonna
that.
say that's
Yeah.
about the same time as Clerks
That's
2.
what I was thinking. Is like
like
it's like he
07
had gotten
probably,
sober
08.
just
because
before that.
it's a very condensed time frame for them
Yeah.
for them to both appear
Right.
in that kind of thing, because you see one or the other kind of appear in
Who,
some
Kevin Smith and Muse?
Yeah, well, I mean, like they do
Kevin
a lot
Smith
of
wasn't easy to get. We had to give him a bag of cash,
yeah,
you know, for him to show up, but he showed up.
he did his thing.
Yeah, he.
We're trying to get him on here too, and bag of cash.
Yeah, he needs a bag of cash.
No, I actually didn't ask for that.
But, yeah, but it was
Two bags.
Just won't
yeah,
respond
it was
to my
hard. You know,
emails.
we only shot in 18 days, and the guys that I was working with were holding on the money, and we had to go shoot up pickups, and we had to, you know, it was hard to finish it. It took a long time. It just drove me into the ground. I was just like a young kid, and I was like, ugh. It was like 3 years before the whole thing was done.
Yeah.
Before they, you know, finally put it out.
So I mean, Paris Hilton, as in terms of you directed that.
I
one, right?
directed
Yeah, so
that,
was
yeah.
she? I mean, as an actress and such, was she?
She
difficult
was
to-
cool for what it was.
For what it was,
fine.
yeah. Not no many expectations really. Just kind of like come in, do your thing, and let's wrap
I mean,
it up.
it was a simple little comedy, so it wasn't too hard to get things.
No
done,
House of
but
Wax.
She
But
was
doing-
cool.
doing it
I've
on
always
a-
liked Paris.
Doing it on an indie scale, writing, directing, as it were, because I'm given to understand there's a lot of these like we had the best of intentions, like the
we were
script was
far-
awesome,
yeah,
you know, what I mean, that kind of thing, where it's like something goes wrong and the studios get involved. This is because the fact she was famous. Did somebody get involved, or did you?
Yeah, I had a group of like really like shady producers that were known to be like really really shady guys. That the agent that I was working with at the time said, "You're getting involved with these guys, and it's really not going to be an easy thing. And are you sure you really want to work with these guys? And we can
Yeah.
hold off a little bit longer." But you know, I was like a 27-year-old kid, and I was, you know, I got to make this movie. I got to make it now.
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know?
yeah.
So, but it was really, they were a hard group, and they were, you know, raising money off the project overseas and not using it towards the budget, and they would do things like product placement with like goldenpalace.com, where like they would have Golden Palace show up, and all of a sudden I'm being forced to like re-script a scene at like 3 o'clock in the morning with like one of their hooker girlfriends that I'm Taft Hartley, and she's got like Golden Palace written across her tits, and it's just like a
Yikes
whole.
city.
I mean, it was like every nightmare you could ever possibly.
So they straight up
imagine.
tried to do the Golden Palace
Yeah,
boxing
but it
style
was like
thing
all
on you?
yeah, they were you know
Man,
Golden
that was-
Golden Palace.
Damn, son.
Talk about a.
I can't remember
what a
the name
shit
of the
company.
liquor. Intrigue. There was a
Whatever
liquor
happened to them?
company called Intrigue at the time, and I had the guy that owned the liquor company. Intrigue was this guy Tom, and he wanted to do a scene with Paris where he was like actually in there. So I had to shoot so much extra stuff on a schedule that we couldn't even make.
How much of your original script did you just have to just be
we
like,
just
fuck
hacked
it,
We
done?
just hacked the crap out of that
Just-
thing.
just barely
I mean, if
any-
you
was it-
watch it, there's like cartoon transitions and things like in there because we couldn't afford to go shoot any more time to get our. I mean, it was just.
Have you seen it anytime recently?
What, Bottoms Up?
Yeah. Did you
I-
watch it at all after you
I
finished
watched.
your final
Well, I mean,
cut?
of course, I piece it together, so
Yeah,
I
yeah.
watched it so many times, but I can't really watch it, and it's hard too because people tell me, "Oh, I've seen Bottoms Up. I saw Bottoms Up," and every time I'm just like, I almost have like an apologetic look where I'm like, "I'm sorry."
Because it's like, yeah, like in the IMDb for Bottoms Up, it's just like, I mean,
Oh,
it'd
it's
be
like
one
it
of
was
the-
ranked as like the worst movie
yeah,
ever
and
made.
It's
like
a 2.1
6 months-
rating is what it has.
Well, it's a lot of it's Paris haters too.
Yeah, I
you
mean,
know?
I imagine that you have. I mean, she's front and center on the cover,
Right.
So it's a fucking
And
lightning
you see
rod.
Muse just hanging out at the side, like,
Right.
hey.
And it looks like everything that you would possibly hate about the industry condensed into
Right.
one box.
Right, and I started off, you know, of course, with the best intentions to make this cool little quirky indie
As
film,
it always does, right?
and that's what we were being forced to do, and yeah, it was hard. The whole thing was hard, but I think that some people, I mean, like I have friends that actually do like it. It's kind of like a stupid stoner film. If it is,
Well,
on,
that's
it's
the-
on Showtime, and like
Yeah,
you
yeah.
watch it late at night.
She's
and
done a couple movies like that.
and
I
they
feel
crack
like.
up, and like I think that like, you know, I think for her it was kind of cool that it was just weird and a quirky movie that she showed
Yeah,
him versus
sure.
like stuff that takes itself seriously that she's
yeah,
done. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, she seems to be like into that kind of stuff because, of, like I said, the past.
Yeah, she's
scene.
cool.
But like, well, that seems to be the case in a lot of these situations where it's like when people sort of rip on movies, like smaller movies and things like that, where it's like, I can't help but feel like I have to come to it and be like, well, I'm sure that's not what the director/writer intended.
Yeah.
But it's like you see plot points just fall off a cliff, and you're like, what happened to these two?
Right.
And it's like,
Oh, yeah.
you know that the writer wasn't just like, well, and then they do this.
Right,
There's no way you sit down and write 300 pages and don't give that some thought. But you get enough producers.
Money
yeah,
people.
they took
fucking
it
money.
from me. They
Yeah.
took it from me and cut it the way that they wanted to cut
Yeah.
it, and they did all that.
Did
and
you
I didn't really
ever-
care at that point. I was just so over it. I was like, I fought every fight I could.
Is there
fight by the time
another
I was all done.
more artistic cut of Bottoms Up that exists somewhere deep?
Yes, there
in your
is. Yes, there is.
I know.
The sound hasn't been mastered on it, but there's actually a decent cut.
We
of,
need to have
Bottoms
a
Up that,
straight riff and exclusive
yeah,
screening
yeah.
of
Yeah,
the
yeah,
of
do
the
that.
director's
Maybe you guys
cut
can
of
help me
Bottoms
figure
Up.
out how to get it online.
Let's do it.
Why
get a
can't we?
pirated copy.
I guarantee
Yeah,
we'll get
yeah.
you at least a
Wait,
5
wait.
on IMDb.
This is the thing that confuses
Yeah,
me.
exactly.
This is what fucks me up. The same situation when we had Wayne Kramer on here.
Wayne Kramer, the director.
Oh,
No,
from
no.
MC5.
Okay.
Sorry.
Right.
Wayne Kramer, MC5. He
Right.
was on
Check out the
here,
jams.
and he asked us to play a song off of one of their albums, off of MC5's albums, while we were on
Right.
here. And Ustream, where we do the live stream through, only allows you so many videos in your free account, whatever. Or I got to pay $1,000 a month because they're assholes. There's a
Shout out
button-
to Ustream.
Fuck them. So there's a button you can hit to like just automatically upload it to YouTube for you, which is like, hey, cool.
Sure.
But I'm wary of hitting that button because so many times I've hit that button and they're like, well, we can't put this up, violation of whatever.
Right.
They did that with Wayne Kramer because we played some of his songs on the
Right.
thing. And they were like, and so I tried to fight it because they were like, due to a copyright claim by such and such, whatever. And I tried to fight it. And one of the of the options of like why I'm allowed to, I'm fighting it, one of the options was I got permission from the copyright owner, and I was like, yes, we did. He was on the show, so I clicked that, and it says, like the next screen was like, are you sure you have written permission?
Yeah, exactly.
And I was like,
Yes.
well, I mean,
Kinda.
I could call him and
Right.
say, hey, can you write me a letter? But then I was like, fuck you.
Did you
Like,
click no?
Yeah.
No, you gonna let the man win?
Yeah.
Well,
Should've fought
because
that one.
here's the problem.
You know how long it
Here's
takes
the
to
problem.
get an injunction?
Well, whatever. Like, not on YouTube. It takes 3 seconds. I've had my own videos taken down because, for instance, my first few shows when I first started doing comedy were at the Irvine Improv, and many years later they made a no filming at the Irvine Improv rule. So whoever fucking took over management over there took my videos and said, no, these are copyright of
Wow.
Irvine Improv, and I said, the fuck they are.
Right.
And I fought them tooth and nail, and YouTube was like, why? And I said, because it's me.
Right.
And their response was, there's no filming at the Irvine Improv. I said, they let me film. They specifically gave me permission to film because I was on stage, and it was like the graduation of this little class they used to run through the Irvine Improv, from the Irvine Improv.
Right.
It was like, it was as legit as you can get without literally written permission. And I was just like, I can't. And nobody would respond to me. So it was like, all right, fuck it. They'll take shit down super quick, but to get it back up, you have to fight them on the other side of it. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. Fuck, there was a whole thing. That was a question I had before this whole rant about.
Industry.
Oh, right. So if we were to, theoretically, if you were to make a cut, if you had that cut, you sound editing and blah, 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 notwithstanding.
The
Look, I
master
got
cut.
I got sound
I got
stuff
some
here.
sound machines back here. We got
Look,
a.
I got-
You see the hookup we got here, okay?
Right.
I got studio reference monitors. I got a fucking 12-track mixer. We're good.
Then Sony would probably sue me. I guess
That's
is
what I'm
it
wondering.
is
Would there
saying
be
at this
somebody
point.
who stepped
Yeah, I
in
mean,
and
that
goes,
thing-
Goon
"Oh,
Squad
we
would
own
come
this."
out.
Sony put that out, and they did
I
really.
own the whole
It
squad.
did pretty well. I mean, it was prior to the DVD market really getting absorbed, and they sold it all over the world. And the producers probably made some money on it. It was just a nightmare of a process. And
It's kind of
it
you.
wasn't-
You
Did
get
you
none
ever
of the
see
benefits,
any of
all
that
the
money?
headache.
Did you ever see the movie Entropy with Steven Dorff?
I feel like I know it, but I don't know if I've ever seen it.
It's a weird thing that it's unfortunate for that film because it came out in like I want to say 98 or 99, and it aired. You know, it was in the theater not that long.
Entropy.
Vidi-
EN.
En
Okay.
Entropy.
Right. I think I probably have.
It was on home video. It was on HBO. Blah blah
Right.
blah. Things like this. But it never went to DVD because it was just during that like,
Transition.
what should we put on DVD first? And like one.
Oh,
of
it
the,
was the early part of DVD.
yeah, the
right.
very first breakout DVD hit was Austin Powers, where it
Right.
was like the first movie that did better on home video than did in the theaters in the history of fucking I don't know whatever. So it never, for whatever reason, nobody's ever put it on DVD, which is unfortunate. It's actually a good movie, and it's Steven Dorff as a director directing his first film.
Huh.
And he moves to New York, and he just finished writing it and everything else like this. He's got everything worked out. The studio's on board. Everybody's cool. And then he meets some girl, and they fall in love. But he's also working on this film, and just from the stress of the film, he gets into a fight with the girl who's
Right.
like, I need to go off, and she's a model. I need to go work for a little while. So he's getting paranoid that he can't see his girl, and she's off modeling in France. And then, like, his movie is getting taken over by these fucking dickhead producers.
Sure.
So 2 parts of his life are just falling to chaos, and then he just says "fuck you" to everybody, and his life kind of goes to shit. But it's an interesting film. It's an
Sounds
interesting
like a
film.
Steven Dorff movie.
Yeah, it's actually really good, but it's like one of those, I don't know where you'd ever find it, but I'd be
Probably at
curious.
Steven Dorff's house.
Had you seen it? Yeah.
In the
Had you
vault.
seen
Steven
it?
Dorff's got to have a copy somewhere.
We've got
Hope
all
so.
kinds of
Yeah.
copies. I
Man,
got
if
6
he's got
cuts.
it on DVD, I want it.
Right.
I should fucking see if there's like a torrent for it. 'cause
You
it's
might
a
be
good
able
movie.
to get it on net. Well, I guess if it's not on DVD, it might
Yeah,
probably
probably.
be on Netflix.
I'm
Might be
pretty
able to
sure
get
it's
it
one of those
there.
movies everybody just forgot
Stream
about,
it,
but
yeah.
like
Netflix
I thought
is
it was
like the
good.
catch-all now for all
Yeah,
those kind of
right.
movies.
I still have it on VHS, but I just fucking
You bootlegging.
no.
You
It's a
bootlegging. You
legit
bootlegging.
copy.
You're
Legit
you're
copy. Bought it
bootlegging, we
from
know.
the. I am, but this was a legit copy. That's why I'm making a point of the fact. Anyway, yeah, I feel like it would probably you'd relate to it having gone through that. But
Oh yeah,
sorry,
no, my life definitely
hadn't-
did go to shit.
So has that like so
did it?
Oh yeah, no, I took a beating from that whole
from
process.
bottoms up?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure that your name's attached.
We're
to
here
it.
to clear your name.
Yeah,
You
oh
see
yeah,
that?
no,
This
no.
is it. This is what straight riffing
Nah,
exists for.
you know, it wasn't.
Let it
wasn't,
be known,
It wasn't
Riffalonians.
even so much that. It wasn't so much like, oh, I can't get another job in this town. It wasn't that. It was like I didn't really want to do it after that for a while. Like that was like I wasn't even sure if I wanted to keep going and keep
Sure,
directing and
sure.
working in the business. That's why I took a break. I mean, I've always done that. I've kind of start and stopped a bunch of times, but it took me a while before I was like, okay, I think I really want to go back and do another film. You know, I talked to like other directors that are buddies of mine that are older that have done movies, and they're like, you know, if you really want to do another movie, you'll go do another movie. You know,
So you just kind of got some advice to just do it at your own pace. kind of
yeah. I
thing.
mean, so it was years before I.
Is that kind of what your project now that we've been talking about, the one that you're
Yeah.
doing in Hawaii? Is that kind of why did you take your time writing the script
I
a little
did.
bit?
I did.
Because you're like, I'm not in a rush to get back into
I
this.
want to do it right.
Right.
Yeah.
Make sure that any scene that gets cut
Because it's
makes
really,
it
I mean,
still work.
it's no bullshit. If you get the opportunity to make a movie and have people pay for your movie and have actors show up and respond to your script and do the whole thing, it's got to be respected and it's got to be done right. You know, I mean, especially if you have control over it. That's the beauty of what I'm doing right now is that I've been putting together my guys and we have control over it, and I don't have anybody coming in and hit me on the back of the head. When I was doing Bottoms Up, I was like a young kid, and I was being run by a guy who's like, he's done huge movies in this town. He's been sued for a lot of money, just a real crazy guy. And it was like, I remember him just coming in and screaming at me, like, before I even got started on the film. So you kind of
Just
got
chaos from the
I hate the
beginning.
phrase "you got to cut your teeth," but you got to cut your teeth because no one can teach you any of that stuff until you go and make the mistakes.
Sure.
So. But if you do get the opportunity, you gotta.
I mean, I guess it's better. I mean, in the '80s, it would have been a fucking huge. There's no indie. It was just like,
right.
buy the
Well,
movie, make it a huge blockbuster thing. Try to,
Yeah.
and if it worked, you were Steven Spielberg and
Yeah.
James Cameron. If
Well,
it
I guess
didn't,
there's
you were
even-
fucking
You were
that
done.
guy.
You were
yeah,
done.
That's it.
Like there's still some
Sorry,
indie-
kid, you're not
Hopefully, you'll
allowed
become a
in this town.
location scout at
Yeah,
that
yeah,
point,
yeah.
you
Well,
know?
there's
At
still,
best.
there's
The
still a
town
lot
that
of
you're
indie
from.
after that. I feel like you go from Spielberg and George Lucas and those kind of guys to you hit that
the
Tarantino,
90s. Yeah.
Robert Rodriguez era where they're just doing their own movies with their own handhelds and stuff.
And they were
they're-
able to make their own movies.
And so but now a lot of that independence within
Yeah.
cinema has been co-opted. I think
Yeah.
the best example is Sundance going from this actual independent film festival to this real corporate fundraiser kind of thing.
well, it's
of
a
just-
market.
Exactly.
Yeah,
yeah.
So I mean, so I guess
And they got
from
those
your-
wheat leaves that come up around everything.
and as as someone who's kind of been in the industry for a while, and
Yeah.
you've seen things from a lot of different perspectives,
Mm-hmm.
and you've kind of reached a place it seems like where you're like, this is in my comfort zone.
Yeah.
I know what I want to do now. I know how I want to do it. I know
Right.
the way I want to do it. as a writer director, you know, with that kind of dual edged sword, what would be your advice to someone who was looking to, you know, so a young person who kind of was in your position doing Bottoms Up, and you could say they were trying to do a project similar to that where they had the same kind of script, same kind of ideas, same kind of opportunity. What kind of advice would you give to someone like that to say, hey, listen, you are about to go right into the fucking eye of the storm. This is what you need to be prepared for.
Well, I mean, you mean in regards to
in terms of like you were saying, like
producers that are challenging?
Well, just like you're a young writer director, you've got this great script and you've got a great opportunity, but it's going to be ripped to shreds in a lot of ways, and you're going to have to handle it. So, what kind of thing would you sit down to?
Put another way, what would you do different in that same position today?
Recently I've, now I've, I grew up a very reactive kid and, kind of hot tempered and whatever else and all that. But
that's right. You got sent to summer camp.
Right. I get sent to summer camp.
You got that island blood in you.
I got we are island people and that's what happens. But I think in anything having to do with any of that stuff, it's really a matter of taking the emotion out of it and trying to keep focusing on it as being a job that you show up to every day. And then really all you can do is hope for the best when you get in a position where producers are, kicking the shit out of you and telling you the way that you need it done. They love to do that, and they especially love to do that with young filmmakers who haven't had a shot yet. They'll just be like, "Oh, well, you're getting an opportunity to make a movie. We're putting film in this camera, and how often do people get to do that?" And they can do that to people.
Yeah.
I'll never put myself in that position ever again. I just don't need to. It's because they don't pay well enough to do that.
Well, this is the
to compensate for
I mean, if somebody
abuse.
if somebody offered me that kind of money to go through what I wanted again, I'd tell them to go fuck themselves.
Sure.
I'd rather go work construction to get that money for the same amount of time.
You got some self-respect and some dignity.
Yeah. But as a kid, you don't know that.
See, we're in a spoiled place, just as a. Well, I wouldn't say as a culture, but specifically
entertainment.
Teddy
culture.
and I specifically in this point in time where it's like. As comedians, comedians classically, you write your fucking shit. You know, like if I want to talk about my dick for 20 minutes, I'm talking about my dick for 20 minutes. Nobody gets to tell me.
He's gonna do that. He's gonna do that.
Thank you. I guess that was a sarcastic thank you, and then I realized that sounded way too sincere. So I had to take that back. It was a very sarcastic. Go fuck yourself. No, it's fine.
No, man, don't you dare.
No, it's cool. Talk about robbing Asian babies. That's fine.
Don't you dare, bitch.
Talk about robbing Asian ladies of their Asian babies, and I'll talk about my dick for 20 minutes.
It's very entertaining.
We'll
when
meet
you
in
do
the middle.
That's the way
Anyway,
you do it.
so we have that independently of each other, but even still. But then together, obviously, we have like things like this podcast. You know what I mean? It's a thing where nobody has ever told myself or Teddy like, well, you can't post that.
Yeah.
Nobody's been like, oh, you got to let's take this chunk out of the podcast.
Right.
There's no editorial control, nothing. So we're spoiled in the regard that like we're so used to having our own canvas to just literally shit on if we wanted to. Like if literally I was like, oh, you know what, you guys, you haven't seen me shit, you got to see me shit. Nobody can stop me, and it's going up. And that's it. And them's the rules.
Well,
and like that's going on the podcast.
Yeah, it's a totally new age.
But so which is a plus and a minus, which is the kind of thing where it's nice that people who would otherwise not have access by kissing ass and so on and so forth and playing the game as they call it to get to a certain level can now do that. Unfortunately, that literally means anybody can just do that. Yeah. And so there's a lot of noise. You know what I mean? There's a billion YouTube channels, and everybody thinks they're going to be the next guy who makes $1 million or $20 million or whatever the fuck.
Right.
And so it is difficult, and I'm kind of curious, and I think that I have to feel like right now and probably for the next 10 years or so, producers are going to be the worst they've ever been, simply because they can be like, listen. So anybody can, like now. Literally anybody can do what you're doing right now.
Yeah.
The only thing that makes you special is us.
Yeah.
So we're gonna fuck you from behind.
We've got the
all
access.
Night long. Yeah.
We've got the access to the bigger, golden, respected megaphone.
So you had talked about prior to the podcast, prior to us actually airing, you had said like, what's your goal like to make advertising dollars? And to answer your question now, the goal is basically that sort of homemade clout. We're not famous.
Right.
When you get to like podcasts that do well on the iTunes, if you look at the top iTunes, they're all either famous comedians, famous celebrities, or they know a lot of famous comedians, famous authors. they all come from traditional media into this.
Right.
Or the other side of it is if you have a gimmick, then that always works. Gimmicks always work. So if you take a show that we don't have a gimmick, we're just being honest, we're just having a regular conversation. This is literally the same conversation we'd have if we weren't on the
It's
air.
pretty much similar to what we were talking about before we
Right,
started the show.
yeah.
Literally before we
Said
started the
we-
show, we had much the same
Finished more
conversation.
Heinekens and Svedka now.
Yeah, exactly.
Several says Fedkas and
Kind
three
of.
and what are you? You're 2 in 3. Okay, so we're good.
Well, there's more bottles.
All right. Okay.
We've
Perfect.
hidden them, Mitch.
So I can't count and be like, okay, where are we at? Am I okay to have
Can't pin
another
us
drink?
down.
So that's the difficult side of it. But what's nice is that if you build organically, if you build an audience from non-traditional media without having to answer those people, then you have this audience that brought themselves to you, and that's really difficult to lose.
Yeah,
and they're
yeah.
fucking dedicated.
Well, yeah, I mean, I mean, that's what, like in any creative thing, that's what carves you out, right? Is that when you're actually able to do what you instinctively want to do and you're good at it and you turn a product out that people respond to, then you can tell every producer or whatever, again, go fuck themselves.
Sure.
Because-
Nobody tells Quentin Tarantino
right,
what to do.
It's because
You know?
he made movies that were good and he got the opportunity to do it. And I didn't really quite understand that when I was able to get my first opportunity directing, and I really wasn't really that ready or prepared. I felt like when I had my first opportunity to direct, and that kind of hurt me a lot too at the same time because I was like, I'm getting this golden opportunity. So few people would give their left nut and frickin' do whatever they had to do in order to get this opportunity. Am I doing a good enough job at this? Even though it's a stupid little comedy, it was like the world to me because I was like 26, 27 years old.
But the problem is that like on the flip side, realistically, had you told them, "Hey, go fuck yourselves," your movie wouldn't have been made.
I told them to go fuck themselves a few times while we were doing it.
Sure.
And,
It was
and
doing
whatever.
Bottoms Up, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, I did everything. I tried, choking one of the producers in a sound session. I did all kinds of shit.
I mean, like, what?
I'm from an island.
He's got the tip of blood.
So, but and that's what I'm saying. These days, you
What
can
was
get
it
able to
about?
do that.
What was that sound session about that you popped off on that producer? Do you remember what that was?
We were trying to finish.
Yeah, you do.
Of course I do. It was the same guy that
I don't
I.
remember that when he's 80. I mean, yeah,
I don't
there's
even
no
know.
way he won't remember that.
don't
Yeah, yeah.
I am putting.
I really don't want to get into like the tough guy talk stuff. It's
No.
just that-
no.
It's the island talk.
It's
now.
the island talk. No, there was one guy in particular that he'd had it out for me the whole time, and he was doing everything he possibly could to make my experience like really just a nightmare. And one night I snapped at him when we were doing a night shoot.
late night session.
A night shoot, and he made my script supervisor cry, and I told him I was going to push his ass down a hill, and it told him to go sit in a corner. And then when I tried to,
God, it's on DVD now. Sorry, they changed the front cover.
and
but
I
go
don't
ahead.
think I've ever tried to
I'm buying
just
that
for the
right now
just for
while
the
I'm on
record.
air.
I don't think I've
What?
ever tried to choke anybody in my life, but this guy was actually trying to. I think I.
Did he come at you first?
I think I tried to lunge at him to try and choke him, and that's never been like an instinct of mine to try and choke somebody. I don't know if I was trying to grab him by the neck or if I was trying to
Trying by
swing
the collar
him.
kind of thing.
I
Listen,
just-
motherfucker.
I just wanted
Let
to
me tell you
grab
something,
him.
motherfucker.
Yeah, I just
You
wanted.
ain't gonna make nobody cry on my set.
Yeah,
I'll kill your bitch
I
ass.
just wanted to grab him. And we were finishing up the movie. I'd already been with the guy for probably about 2.5 years of crap. And,
oh God! So
and
you
he-
really were ready to pop off.
Yeah, and and they were holding my money. They
It
were
was like
doing
800 days of rage,
They
man.
were like, dude, at this point, I was living off of I don't know what, and they were holding my money, and they were doing
Less
all
than
the
ramen.
and it was just the worst experience you could imagine. And I had a post-production supervisor who was the only guy who was really helping to make sure that this thing was being finished. And he fired my post-production supervisor when we were in a recording session to finish up the movie.
Oh, my
we were about a
God.
week or two away.
Wow. So
My
you were,
eyes are bulging out of my
yeah,
head.
You haven't slept at all.
I haven't slept. I don't know.
If Red Bull existed,
forever.
you would have been killing
right.
it.
So I just run up and start jumping at this guy, trying to grab him, and I actually, this is another, adding on to it. I was at a bar. I was at Barney's Beanery 3 nights prior, and I was drinking quite a bit, and I got in a fight with 2 guys there. I don't fight that much. I used
Only
to-
when you're filming this movie.
only when I
apparently.
had really lost my mind. So I had a big ass black eye. I had a shiner. And I walked into this recording session with the shiner. This guy does this. I jump up and try and lunge at the guy and grab him. And this old sound guy's like, I wouldn't fuck with him. Look at his face.
You probably subconsciously like, I'm gonna go fight some
Yeah,
motherfuckers
I was
tonight,
just- I'm gonna
so
fight-
that I'm gonna go fight this motherfucker 2 nights from now.
I was gonna fight to my death at that point. I was
Yeah.
like, I don't care. It's, you know, it's like fucking street match, death match, whatever. Yeah, it was. I was at the end of my rope for sure at that point.
I mean, I've gotta imagine though, like just
Too much pressure. I was
after
too young.
everything, like you've described everything that's gone into this entire production. You've got
It's a stupid little comedy. It's a stupid little stoner.
But
comedy.
you know what it
Yeah.
is, though? I feel like those are the things that make you go insane, more importantly, because you know what? In the grand scheme of things now, you're like, yeah, it's just a stupid little stoner comedy.
Right, right.
But at the time, that's your fucking blood, sweat, and tears.
Yeah, and when
it's
you're
your first
younger,
script,
right.
it's your first shot,
Right.
and you're trying to do it right, and you're trying to show respect
And
for
you
the
know,
craft.
and you know, it's right at the point of your life where it's like, if I don't do this, what am I gonna do next?
Right. What? Like, this is really a fork in the road
I need to
kind of
make
moment.
money. What am I gonna do
Yeah,
next?
and if I nail this, I know I can get my foot into the door for some
Right.
much bigger opportunities.
because I was already getting hype and whatever else.
Exactly.
And people were taking meetings.
and now
it was like
you
a lot
got,
of that.
and then it's like all that abstract rage and frustration can all of a sudden get manifested into one little
Oh, no,
smarmy
I-
motherfucker's face.
Right, and I was still a punky kid. I mean, I've gotten a lot better now. I mean, this is 7, 8 years ago, whatever, but I was still a punky kid, and I hung out with a lot of punky guys, and I was like, you want me to call up the boys and just sit outside the
You want me to call
office,
Cooksy right
Yeah,
now?
yeah, yeah.
You want me to get that Terminator
No,
blood
but
in here,
it was,
son?
It was just like
You've
that. I
been
was like-
slapped upside the head
I mean,
by
it
donkey
was,
lips.
You know, I mean, I was drawing upon what I knew as a kid, I guess. It was just...
You go back to your instincts, you know? You
Yeah,
try to
I mean,
fight for the
these
thing that
days-
means the most
these
to you.
days I would, you know, I wouldn't put myself in that position.
I'm going to
you
go
know?
out to the parking lot. I'm going to cut all your tires.
Right, right. I mean, you know, I just wouldn't put myself in that position. I'd make sure I give the money up front, whatever it was. But it was really, I put a lot on it, way more than I ever should have. You know.
I mean, I can imagine too where you
So it's a
feel
big
like
letdown at the end of the day.
yeah, I
you know?
feel like it's one of those situations where you're very aware that a certain control of your opportunity is slipping away from you.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I
And-
knew I was done.
And I think the three of us are all very similar in that way. Where
Right.
we like, you know, if you have the chance to see the person who's taking that control away from you,
Right.
you're gonna feel that like Bruce Banner rage
Yeah.
in your hands.
You
be
don't
like,
want anybody getting in the way of your
yeah,
livelihood.
you're gonna grab him by
Yeah.
the fucking collar and be like,
Right.
"Hey, the
Yeah.
fuck is wrong with you? Do you not know what this means?"
Because with this guy, he had one. It was like one guy. It was like his ego was on the line. He had it out for me.
Yeah.
It was personal. It
Right.
become personal because I'd probably snapped at him in front of
and
I'd
you
done
had
something
blown. You took a
wrong.
blow to his. Yeah, you took a blow to
so
his
he
stature.
was doing everything he could to just kind of make this movie shit. Is what
Right.
it felt.
I'll
like.
show you, motherfucker.
So yeah, it was brutal, and I probably I would never put myself in that kind of position or handle it that way ever again. But
Sounds like you handled it pretty well.
but
Now,
I
if
like
you-
how I love how the old fucking sound guy was like, "Don't fuck with that guy." He's
Yeah,
been
yeah, no,
smoking,
he
like
was,
taking a drag as he
yeah,
said.
yeah. It's
"Don't
like,
fuck
look
with
at his
that guy."
face. I want to fuck with that guy. I had a big shiner. Some guy laid me out.
Are you at the Barney's in West Hollywood? Was that one?
Barney's Beanery, and,
Yeah.
and some guy like budged into me, and I like went and took a swing at him, and his buddy cleaned me, and I was just like laid out, and I had a black eye, and then showed up at the sound mix the next day, and I'm like black eyed trying to choke this guy in the sound. It was a rough time. It was that would be a rough few months of my life right there.
Oh man,
Followed by many after
that
that.
sounds like a
but
great short by itself, right there.
Yeah,
Go ahead and put that one together.
stupid kid stuff.
That's a great time.
There you go.
Right.
Now, if you go through and you make the movie, you believe it, everybody believes it, and whatever have you. But let's say producers or movie studios are like, we're just not sure. It doesn't have enough explosions or whatever have you. Are you thinking like, well, here's how I would do an online distribution or a direct to consumer or straight to Netflix or whatever have you?
Well, the amount of money we have to make back to pay back these people, we can't. I mean, like,
I was
that's
just
why-
curious.
Yeah, no, I mean, but it fortunately, because I'm partnered up with a guy that manages me to produce, and our financiers have come through people that believe in the project and people that are really responding to the project for what it is. People are giving me a lot of support, so I don't really feel like I'm going to be up against similar situations.
Less resistance than you've
Yeah,
encountered. in the
yeah. I mean,
past.
this is a very honest, homegrown, grassroots style movie with, a little bit of money, but on a relative, compared to
Sure,
these
sure.
days. I mean, what
Yeah.
it is, but it's I'm just trying to do it as organically as possible and not, put myself in that position again, because I feel like as any filmmakers, unless you give a film, and I plan to produce myself for years to come too. I mean, it's something that I like to do, and I feel like if you're gonna get behind a filmmaker, a director, a writer, director, whatever it is, give them their shot and support them.
Yeah.
Unless it's just something completely outlandish and you know that they're getting outside of themselves.
Well, that's the difficulty that we face in this. Back to what we were talking about before, insofar as like self-production,
Right.
and the ease of doing so. I still believe in the sort of elitism and the gatekeeper in a
Right,
sense,
right.
because you need to filter that noise somehow.
Right.
I don't, however, necessarily think that the old world style, and I do think that it's a lot of that race to the bottom, lowest common denominator kind of stuff.
Right.
But the difficulty is like, where do you need somehow to find people who go like, who can look at a thing,
Yeah.
whether they know about it or not, or agree with it or not, and go, this is a good thing.
Yeah.
I don't particularly, whatever, I don't like this show, but I get it.
Yeah.
I get how people could like this.
Right.
You know what I mean? And therein lies the difficulty that we're in, literally, like at this moment as a culture, from an entertainment standpoint, is that, oh, this is a thing.
Yeah.
It'll be good.
Yeah.
Well, I think
And,
this is,
and letting and giving exposure, filtering out the shitty noise. So sorry to cut you off, but
No, go ahead.
but just what you were saying a moment ago, getting behind and so on and so forth. Do you have a sort of hope to move on to a position where, or not even move on, but in addition to, I guess I should
Yeah.
say, a position to where you can say, oh, I got pitched this project by this group of people. I believe in what they're doing. I'm gonna back it as well, or I'm
Oh
gonna
yeah,
put my
for sure. I mean,
name on
that's
it.
a big thing with me, and I'm that's what draws me to producing as well as doing my own stuff that I write, or direct, or the rest of it. But I like producing in the sense that I like that process. I like when I mean, I don't, when people come with a good, yeah, it'd be great, thanks. When people come with a good project, it's a good project, but then it's a matter of, okay, I believe in people. I have a lot, I've been really fortunate. I've been around LA a long time, and I've met a lot of people that are bullshit. I've met a lot of people that are really talented,
and you've
really creative.
seen LA through a lot of different phases
yeah, I
too.
mean, worthwhile artists that I'm fortunate to call friends, and I'm fortunate to call peers or colleagues or whatever you want to call them. And when I see friends of mine that are really talented, I love to back it up.
Right.
I don't know. I don't know what it is, but I love like getting behind people.
I think it's
that
I think it's that sense of being like
you feel like you're part of what.
Well,
they,
yeah,
what
and
they're
I
trying
think
to
it's
get
that
out
sense
there.
of like I get the rare opportunity to see something that I know can blossom into something great.
That's not bullshit.
Right,
Yeah.
and it's something
Yeah.
organic, and it's
Yeah.
something very
It's a
genuine.
parenting kind of thing.
And
where you go,
I-
like, I
if-
had to see this child grow.
If I can give it just the right environment
Because
to
a lot of people
nurture it.
deserve the shot.
Right, if I could
Yeah.
just give it the best environment to nurture it, and the environment that I wasn't given,
Right,
which is,
right.
I mean, all this,
Right,
stories
yeah,
and
I
stuff,
mean, what
and
you
it's-
hope for
and I
as a
think
creative,
I
yeah.
think that's definitely the thing that and I think that's something I can definitely relate to. I know Mitch, you can too as well. Where like you feel that sense of like I didn't get the shots, like when I got my opportunities, I didn't feel like I was in a very nurturing environment. I
Right.
felt like I was up against a lot of resistance,
Right.
Not just resistance, but like people trying to tear me down.
Exactly,
And if
working
I
against you,
and if
yeah.
I can create the opposite of that for people that I respect
Yeah.
and like and whose work I admire, then I know that I could give them an amazing platform to do something great.
Yeah,
And-
when you give a talent, all the tools that they need and the backup that they need, that's when they shine and they do great work, and everybody wins at that point.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
It's just really I'm not somebody, I'm a creative person and I love the creative, but my ego doesn't really lie in that. Where like, I mean, I respond to my friends' work, like
Yeah,
when I
yeah.
see them do good work. There's so many people that are bullshit and that aren't, that are just doing stuff or just are jumping onto some sort of trend or are riding some
Though
sort
this
of
is
train
what's hot
like
right
that.
now. I'm like-
Yeah, I mean, you see all that, but then when something really sticks out, when somebody's really got, a voice or an eye or something like that, I mean, it's worth backing up,
It's worth putting some skin in the game.
Yeah,
It's
it is,
similar. It's very similar in the comedy world. It's
Mm-hmm.
the comedians that are your peers that you go, I really like their material, whatever have you, even if it's something you'd never personally do,
Right.
And vice versa. There's a lot of that, like, over drinks, like, hey, I love that new bit you did. At the very end, I'm thinking maybe instead of this word, you say this. They're not saying that from a producer's standpoint, it's going to get them money. They're not
Right.
going, what people like is titties. They're going like, hey, I like this I'm referencing Entropy once again.
I know.
There's a scene in Entropy.
It's
There's a scene in
just-
People
Entropy.
do like titties.
They
though.
do.
It is. It is
I-
the way
when
that
I-
you sold it. Like
Yeah.
you really did
I-
slip into slimy
that's
producer
what I
mode.
do.
I bet Eric had a flashback.
When you were talking about
I'm gonna
like
choke you out, motherfucker.
when you were talking about like Golden Palace and you mentioned the titties, I was thinking because in Entropy there's one of the producer guys
Just
in the
keep
movie.
showing them titties. Then that's
He was
what you-
one of the
hundreds
producer
thousands
guys
of
goes, here's the problem. Our leading lady, no tits. She doesn't show her tits. Where's the scene where she shows her tits? And he's
Right,
like,
right.
I'm not. It's got nothing to do with the
She
plot. And he
plays a
goes,
librarian.
yeah. So she takes a couple Polaroids of her tits, and she writes a price tag on them and says, if they want to see my tits, take the black tape off and give it. It's $1 million. I mean, that's what my tits are worth. Fuck them.
Right.
So anyway, when comedians, fellow comedians, not like whatever, but as a fellow comedian, as friends, it's that again working with you. It's
Right.
that like, oh, you know what might enhance that joke that fixes your vibe just because I can hear it in my head and I feel like there was a misstep here.
Yeah.
They're helping you, and you're gonna be like, oh yeah, you know what, good point.
Well, it's the other thing
It's
too
not
with
a lot of,
comics.
like,
well,
weird
If you're
egos.
just hanging out with comics and you're just joking back and forth, and then someone says something very funny, and then someone's like laughing, and you just go take that.
Yeah,
Take
yeah,
that.
yeah.
Like I don't like I'm not gonna that bit doesn't work for me. I could never do that on stage.
Yeah.
But I know you could pull it off, and I
Right.
know that you enjoy it. So take it
Right.
and make it
Yeah.
run. And I think that's the same kind of thing comedy wise, where it's like, yeah, you know what? Like I want to give you the thing that I know can give you the best possible chance to entertain people and to make an impact. Of
Well,
some
yeah, I
kind.
mean, I feel like in general that really the hard part today, and I think a lot of it comes down to so much of the internet and people blasting out so much stuff without really thinking it, or honing anything, or sanding anything, and making things specific. I think that like that's part of the thing that we're up against right now is because there's so many outlets, people just throw a bunch of shit up against the wall and
Yep.
see what sticks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
I think when anybody's like really good at what they do and they have this proper support and they're able to get in there and know that it's not worth doing unless it's ready and it's
Yeah.
not worth doing. I mean, and that's how I feel about film. That's why I felt like I spent so much time on what I've been working on is because if you're going to get all these people out there, you're going to spend all this time trying to raise money, do whatever. You get all these people there working and doing whatever they can. You're going to capture it on something that's going to be around for perpetuity reasons or whatever, the whole nine. You better make it as best as you possibly
Right.
can.
Yeah, yeah.
So I respect people that grind, period. Because I feel like these days there's so many people that don't grind. They just put it through for the sake of getting it out. And that's what a lot of this town in so many ways are.
especially this age where you
And
can
it's
just throw
hard.
whatever.
It's so hard too now because like any of the good stuff is getting buried with all the shit that people are just, throwing out there. you
It's
know?
it's I've heard a lot of people kind of phrase it as everyone now has access to the microphone, but not everyone has earned the right to step
Right,
up.
exactly.
And it's that sense of and like a lot of people kind of be like, well, what do you mean everyone hasn't earned the right? And it's a sense of you haven't fucking found out what the fuck you're doing yet.
Yeah.
You're just
Yeah,
stepping up to the microphone and just spitting out
Blurting
booty chatter.
shit.
Yeah, and it used to be
And
when
it's
you
a Facebook, Twitter culture that allows for a
right,
lot
and
of
yeah,
that
you
stuff,
can
know?
you can overshare if you want to, but
Right.
the people who are doing it in the and it's not you don't want to say the right way, but the people who are doing it in the fashion that means something,
Right.
and the fashion that has longevity,
Yeah.
and that can exist for a while. When they step up to the microphone, they have already spent the time figuring out what they're going to say. They're not just getting up there and getting all excited, like, "Ooh, yeah, I get to say some shit now."
Yeah.
Like I know what I'm going to say, and I'm gone. Good day.
Well, that's why these days when something's good, I feel it's really good.
Right.
In
Because-
comparison to other stuff.
Yeah, I mean
Because it
something
really
sticks out
sticks out.
now.
Yeah,
it is,
yeah,
You
it's
can
worth the
see
shit.
the,
Yeah,
the you can see the depth of the creation.
Right.
You can see the difference between someone who was like, I know you put in
But it's
work.
kind of sad that everything is really good now just because so much stuff's out there. I mean, things that are good are really good because there's so much shit out there. But, I mean,
I think this is one of those things too, where it's like you came up in a very different era of the entertainment industry.
Yeah.
And so I am always curious for those type of individuals in this Twitter, Facebook,
Yeah.
Tumblr kind of culture, whatever. I feel like, did you feel like that same kind of dynamic would have existed if the same technology was available in that era where everyone would be like, fuck it, I'm just sharing everything? Or do you think that there was a more, like in the industry, there was a sense of like, no, I don't want to put everything out there now, do you know?
No, I feel like back, I mean, I think that's where we're coming from. I mean, if you were to look back in the 70s where they were making, story-driven movies and all the way through the 90s where studios were making story-driven movies, people sat down and they had a lot of meetings and they honed exactly what they wanted.
A narrative.
Yeah, and they
Yeah.
got it specifically the way that they needed it and got it done. They weren't looking at timelines that were linked into advertising and blasts and things
It's kind of
like
like
that.
the Pixar model.
And
I feel like
it really it's
Until
taken,
fucking Disney
I mean,
bought 'em,
It's the
assholes.
ADD thing that's really taken us away from a lot of
Cars
storytelling.
too. Fuck you.
But yeah, I don't know, man. I mean, with me, it's kind of, to some degree trying to stick towards those old lines of the whole thing. I mean, I think that any of us, we try to give homage, for I guess lack of a better phrase, to the generation in front of us that inspired us in order to try and bring whatever little pieces of things that we picked up from growing up upon watching those people's art. I think that's the case. I'm just worried about these kids right now. That a lot of them, I'm not worried about them. I could really give a shit.
I'm worried about all of them.
Well, I mean, but I'm saying,
lost souls, baby.
but you got all these actors.
Burial.
I know you're
You got all these actors now. I mean, they wake up in the morning and they got they're 20-some odd years old. They got 500,000 Twitter followers and they're buying their own press. They don't know.
Yeah.
They just figure that they're not. They don't really know what they're.
I
dealing with.
can't figure out if it's like a good thing or a bad thing, because it's like if I had 500,000 Twitter followers, on the one hand, when I want to promote something, awesome.
Right.
On the other hand, when I'm drunk, not awesome.
Yeah, but I guess that's the thing, though, right?
Like that happens.
But again,
That's a
it goes
double-edged
back to the
sword,
point where it's
motherfucker.
like if 20 years ago, if you were drunk and Twitter existed,
Well, 10 years ago, with a lot of the guys that I knew that were like, kind of coming up as actors,
Ground
and, like,
floor
getting
kinda thing.
getting some fame and whatever, they weren't buying their own press because they do like a magazine interview and they know it's out there and a few people see it. Now these people are doing stuff and they're getting instant response.
Yeah.
They're getting people waking up every morning from freaking Norway telling them how great they are. It's just
Well,
and the bubble has expanded in terms
It's
of who you
just
can
like-
reach.
yeah, exactly.
Instantaneously.
Interestingly, to your point, I literally saw this last night, and I thought I'll have to bring this up on tomorrow's podcast. There's a site that I visit called Metafilter, and it's sort of just people talking about things on the web. Anyway, an article, one of the posts last night was about some show on Nickelodeon
right.
called The Legend of Korra, or Korra,
I don't know.
Korra.
Yeah.
You've heard of this?
Yeah, I've heard of this.
See, I don't know anything about any of this shit. I've never heard of this before.
Sure.
It's,
But I can't believe-
from the Avatar. It's
I don't mean like
last Avatar.
this is an adult, and I don't mean pornographic,
Avatar.
but I'm saying like adults hang out here. This is not like a kid's site,
Right.
and yet there's 115 comments of people just praising the fuck out of this show that's on Nickelodeon.
that aren't 15.
It says the season finale of The Legend of Korra is upon us, airing in the United States tomorrow, Nickelodeon. And it's all this stuff. The Wall Street Journal did an article about
Sure.
it. So, in a sense, if there was a Salute Shorts today, there'd be Tumblrs, there'd be a fan community, there'd be Facebook pages.
Well, there is still those
right?
kind of things.
It's
I feel like,
weird.
and that's kind of
I'd
what,
be going out with Selena Gomez. Right.
Or Clarissa.
Right.
Up top. Come on.
Selena Gomez.
All right. I don't get a. I get
no, you got
five
the
for
air
that.
5. You got
All
the,
right,
but I
well,
guess that's
okay.
kind of the thing
get
now
the
too.
air
It's like
5.
where you do kind of
But
exist.
I do also, as a quick side note, in respect to what you were saying about giving people a chance and things like this, say you had some clout and somebody came to you with Salute Your Shorts today, would you be like, that's never going to work? Or did you feel like, even looking
You mean,
back,
like,
do you
to
feel
me
like...
to like produce Salute Your
What I'm
Shorts?
saying is, as an adult looking back, do you go, yeah, it was a good show? Or do you go,
Oh no,
"Ah,
it was a
was
great
fucking-"
show. I
Okay.
think that it was for what it was. It was very cutting
If
edge.
you had the ability to greenlight or fucking blacklist that show today...
Oh no, I mean I don't know if that show fits today, but for what it was in the '90s back then, it was a single camera show that Propaganda Films produced. They
It's
had
true,
a
there
bunch of
was
hip
no-
young
yeah, yeah.
directors. It was like
Right.
very edgy.
and it was
cool,
based
you
off
know?
a book, which I just
Yeah,
kind of
Steve
found
Slavkin
recently.
wrote
Yeah.
a book,
I was
yeah.
actually, I remember an episode, and I didn't cheat and watch it again last night, so
Sure.
so my memory of it might be
I did.
might be
Right.
fucked. So
Right.
okay, by all means, I remember an episode that was you and Redhead, and you guys had gotten into like a fist fight or whatever, and the camp counselor locked you
In the
into a
infirmary,
yeah,
Right.
they locked you in a cabin.
right? And,
And
he made me a wuss hat.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
remember that
Yeah,
one.
and
see
you
that one
guys
with
put
Wozzeck?
together a puzzle together, like
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
But he flipped it
That's-
upside
that's
down,
cute.
right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I thought, like, at the time, I thought that it was an interesting thing because, like, he sort of, I think it was his character. Maybe it was your character. And again, I apologize if I'm forgetting this wrong. It was somebody who was like they had a shit ass home life, and that's why they were a dick.
That'd be the redhead.
Okay,
Yeah.
he has shit, but
Cooksey, yeah. Another
but like
shout
the-
out to Danny Cooksey.
but like the only
Mitch,
thing
he got the shout outs down right now.
the only thing he had going for him was that like in his shitty home to escape reality, he'd put together puzzles.
Yeah.
And he got so good at it
Yeah, exactly.
that he put them
Yeah.
together.
No.
He put them together upside down with no
Right.
pictures,
Right.
and then he'd flip it at the
Yeah,
end.
Slavkin was thinking. He laid down a character's backstory. Sometimes
I
he would
don't think today
foreshadow.
you'd have
Well,
a
no, this is
character.
Slavkin is a talent. You
I
know,
don't
he-
think-
And he
I
wrote
don't
his book,
think-
and then he got it made into a TV
I don't
show.
think that you'd have today a kids show where a guy's like, "Yeah, my dad's a drunk and he beats me, but
yeah.
my escape is putting together puzzles." I don't think you'd have that
And
today.
that's my-
and I
he
like
did.
the
He
honesty.
dealt
Well, I
with
guess that's my
themes. He
question.
dealt
is
with
that-
themes.
I think that's my question to you is kind of you are straddling a very interesting line. I feel like as you're now a writer and a director, and you're
Right.
in the ability to sort of create your own projects, but you also exist in a culture now where there's a
Great
slew-
deal of nostalgia.
a slew of kind of a great appreciation for newfound kind of cult classics, I guess, in a sense.
Right.
And I feel like Salute Your
Just
Shorts.
recently
I
it
feel like
came
Salute
back,
Your
yeah.
Shorts has kind of always held a very special place in a large
Dude,
part of people's
Teddy,
hearts.
Teddy got a text before we started the show of like, "Oh my God, salute your shorts."
Oh no, people get excited about
I
it.
got a few
And
comments
they-
tonight
yeah.
on Facebook.
But
where
you know
people were
what?
like,
They just
"Oh my
recently
God."
started to get excited about it because they started re-airing it on
Right.
Nick at Night.
And
Oh,
it's
did
so,
they?
it's, they've,
So there's
they've
been a
re-
resurgence. I've
I'm
done
gonna have to watch
interviews.
that.
It's
Oh,
like
yeah,
there's
into
been
that
like there've
shit.
been phases where Nickelodeon will kind of air it, where like they make a new Nick channel and they start to air Salute Your Shorts more. But it's kind of like
It's been about 10 years, I
it's-
think, before they've aired since they've aired it.
Yeah.
It's done recently.
and so
Yeah.
but it's taken on a greater appreciation, I feel like, and it kind of goes to Mitch's point where like people who grew up watching that show, you kind of look at children's shows now or
Yeah,
teen
yeah.
shows now, and you see a very superficial kind of depiction of life.
Well,
and it doesn't have the same kind of depth. And I guess my question
no,
is
it's a
like,
good point.
it's a
It
cult.
is.
You,
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
what is it to like you?
I've
You
watched
are
my
part of a
nieces-
cult
No,
classic.
but I think
it's a modern cult
I
classic.
think he's hitting on a good point because I feel like right now a lot of that stuff is. I mean, like you were saying, it was Slavkin was in there. He was dealing with themes. It was kind of edgy. It was kind of interesting.
yeah,
It was
yeah.
serious
And it hit with
adolescence.
kids. It was very hip.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think that was a very hip show for the time.
Sure.
It was
sure.
extremely hip, and the people that were making because it was propaganda films and the whole nine was very hip. Now I feel like stuff's just so like flat.
Commercialized. It's
Saccharine.
commercialized.
It's almost
Saccharine.
gone backwards. I mean, it's
Yeah,
almost
yeah.
like that. Those are the TV shows they would have been making in like the late
In the
'60s.
Yeah,
or
right.
something.
Where it's like, you
Yeah,
know what? I
right.
enjoy
But
raising
a lot
my
of
kid,
that's,
but I
you
need a
know,
lucky
I mean,
strike
I'm not
to get
gonna
him through
get
the day.
into politics or any of that kind of stuff because I hate to talk about it, especially when I'm sitting here having a few beers. But
It's a perfect place
but
to
it
do
is
that.
kind of it's a little bit of a conservative.
Says the guy who he'll quote politics in his sleep. He could tell you the history of presidents.
Let him
If-
finish his
if
point,
you
sir.
hit him with a
Let him
with a
finish his
bat,
point, sir.
he'd wake up and tell you all the
It
presidents.
is a little
This
bit of a
guy's lived and
conservative
breathed
right-wing
presidents.
thing, I think, to a degree. It could be a lot of it having to do with the sponsors.
Leave it to Beaver kind of thing, you
It's a
know?
sponsors kind of thing. And in the '90s, it was just started. There was a whole new wave of cool that was coming out of the late '80s. I felt.
Well, you know what I feel like? I feel like what
Okay,
was
go ahead.
lost.
Because
I
I
feel
have
like-
I have a theory of my own.
I feel like to kind of piggyback off of what you're saying, I feel like the early '90s and that early to mid '90s was
Yeah.
a very edgy time in TV,
Yeah.
and I feel like it's kind of been forgotten because you had adolescent shows like Salute Your Shorts, which really dealt with real life adolescent problems, like my
Right.
parents are terrible and I'm at a fucking summer camp and I have no one. I got to bond with these kids, and then you take a show like Melrose Place, which had like a black female who was very aggressive, and they had a gay character.
Right.
And like they got erased the fuck out
we
very
were
quickly.
we were the same production company as 90210 at the time.
And I feel like,
Yeah.
you look at
And
that.
Parker Lewis Can't Lose.
Right.
and
But
all- you
look
know,
at that
and,
time, and
yeah.
it was a very, very progressive time in
Yeah,
terms of
yeah.
what was being presented culturally, and somewhere along the way, it just got ratcheted back very hard.
Yeah.
Here's my theory on that. My theory is, being a child of the '80s, if you will, I think that parents.
Shout out to Trickle Down.
I think that my parents at the time were thinking back to when they were a kid. There was nothing on TV they couldn't watch. There was no fuck,
Right.
shit, cock. There was no
That
sex.
was all black and white.
Yeah.
Pleasantville.
Pleasantville.
Right. There was just everything was clean and serene and saccharine. Everything was just it's
White.
fine, right? So I think that my parents and parents of that same era were all just like, whatever, watch TV. Who gives a shit, right? But then around at some point, we got 500 fucking channels. And I remember
Then
actually...
we got things like the V chip.
Yeah,
that
yeah.
kicked in.
Well, I mean,
Yeah.
I'm talking
VTuber.
about like I can literally remember I remember on the Beavis and Butthead Experience CD where there's a skit they do of Beavis and Butthead where they talk about, I heard that soon TV will have 500 channels. And Beavis says, yeah, it'd be great if one of those channels didn't suck. And now, mind you, this is like 1993, 94.
Yeah.
It was like, so, and I don't remember the day that they pulled the switch. All I know is that one day I had, 20, 30 channels, whatever. And then one day I had fucking,
I can't stand.
I think we're at
500
1,000
channels.
now.
I can't. I don't
It's
know where.
and there's never anything on.
First of all,
But
the last
like,
two channels.
You
are
got to
black
make a
channels.
list of
Okay,
what you
sorry.
what are the ones you wanna
500
watch,
channels
you know?
and 2 of them are black. To
The
respect.
last two are black. That's all I'm saying.
Anyway,
Last two.
so before you get into the premiums and the HDs and the pay-per-views, so I think that you have this this abundance of entertainment, and also those kids from the 80s, myself included, many of them have had kids in that time. And are like, actually, there was some slightly adult themes that nobody was paying attention to because they thought,
Oh, there was a lot of them. I mean, even
whatever,
like
right?
Wonder Years had a lot of adult.
Wonder
themes,
Years
was
you know,
very
but-
cutting edge.
Exactly.
yeah.
But I think that nobody expected it at the time, and so it just slipped under.
But
and
I also-
now, like, as an
yeah.
adult, people grew up and went, wait a minute, wait
What
a minute.
happened?
We need to pay attention to this shit
in the
because
80s,
you've
we
got
were
so
fucking
much
around
shit.
a lot in the 80s. When you
Right.
think
Yeah, yeah.
about it, I mean, we grew up in a time
Did
where...
you, if you watch,
I mean, I was drinking beer at 15, 16 years old and like whatever else.
Fast
You
Times
know,
at Ridgemont
I mean,
High.
And then we moved into the 90s. We were all smoking weed. We were doing whatever else.
was real
Fast
quick
Times
pace.
at
Yeah, it was
Ridgemont High.
quick pace.
Fast Times at
Nowadays-
Ridgemont High was a PG-13 film.
Right.
Today would be NC-17.
Yeah.
Exactly.
You've got talks about like teenagers talking about abortions, rape. There's Phoebe Cates gets naked by the pool while
Well, I think-
Judge what's his name fucking jerks
I
off in the
think,
bathroom.
I think
Rifle.
even more specific.
That would not happen today. You
Well, I
could not
think-
get away with that calling that a teen movie
Yeah,
today.
I think even
I don't
more.
think.
I think even more specifically than that, if you kind of focus on Nickelodeon as kind of the crux of a
Sure,
representative, you go from this era of having shows like Hey Dude, Clarissa Explains It All, who the creator.
want to explain it all to Clarissa.
Okay.
if you listen.
But the fun
wanna
fact is
explain it all to
the creator of Clarissa Explains It All is also the author of the Hunger Games trilogy.
Did not know that.
Yeah, fun fact, and that's a very dystopian.
I'm sorry. You've never in your life said fun fact like that. Oh, I needed a laugh. It was so good. I love that. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to trip you up. Go on with your
No, that
point.
was
I just
perfect.
thought that you were like,
That was perfect.
fun fact.
Yeah, it's perfect. That's perfect.
Like in the middle of a serious political discussion, you go, here's a fun-sized Snicker bar. All right, back to my point. Like, wait, what? What's going on? Sorry.
No, but
fun fact.
But I think it's.
I'm sorry.
Oh,
yeah, I
Lord.
bottled that laugh up for 2 hours
But
now.
no, I think it's that kind of thing that you're talking about, where like you go from this era with Hey Dude and Salute Your Shorts, where you've got this. Even the title of it is a very layered thing, where they run the prank and they put the shorts on the
Sure,
flagpole.
sure.
And
Nobody would allow that today.
I think.
Oh, is this what happens under Obama's America? Nobody
Yeah, right.
salutes a flag anymore?
But like you've got nuance, and you've got
I'm 35 years old, sitting here talking about the nuance of Salute Your Shorts.
but you've got
I'm
like.
ready to move on when
But
you're
no,
ready,
no,
because
but
I
here's
got
the thing.
one article I want to get
Okay,
to.
here's the
So
last.
whenever you're done.
I guess what I'll say is like you go from like if you just take Nickelodeon as a case study, you
Sure,
go from
sure.
like Rocko's Modern Life, Rugrats as a cartoon, which was like very nuanced or whatever, and all these
amazing.
shows, and then now you've got like SpongeBob, which is like adults like it, but like it's just a silly ass show. You
I'm
know what I
given to
mean?
understand he lives under the sea.
Yeah, and he's
Okay.
SpongeBob SquarePants. But I guess that's the thing where it's like if you were a kid watching like some like Pete and Pete, and now you're watching Nickelodeon, you're like,
Right.
the fuck is going on with this network now? This is
Yeah,
all just
yeah.
frivolous bullshit. So
Right.
I guess that's the thing.
I literally, my exposure to children's television is that visiting my nieces in Phoenix that are, they're now, I think, 12 and 13 years old. But watching them grow up to like Nickelodeon and Disney Channel, and I watched the show and I'm like, I still do not understand Hannah Montana. at all. I'm given to understand I'm going to get this wrong and probably get some angry emails and fuck those people because they're creepy pedophiles. But I'm given to understand it's something like Hannah Montana is a normal person, but Miley Cyrus is her like alter ego that's famous.
It's like a real life duality kind of thing. Where, like,
Right.
she slips
And
in.
I don't know,
P.S.
but,
it's sort of like Superman, but as a girl who's
Yes,
a pop star,
something
and
like
I'm
that.
like, which is not really. It's not. She doesn't even put on glasses. She just wears her hair slightly different.
Yes.
Which fuck you. I'm not that stupid, and I'm kind of offended that you would raise my nieces that stupid. But let's move on.
Let's see.
There's
let's
one
close
article
out.
I want to get to.
Let's close out here.
One article I want to get to that I'm fascinated by this idea. There's a Dutch startup that's hoping to fund the Mars mission with a reality TV show. And here's the
there you
idea.
go.
Not just a reality TV show of people going to Mars, which sounds like an awesome idea. This is people who are okay with never coming
That's
back.
what I was gonna say. They're not coming back.
You're not
They
coming
got my
back.
vote.
So
Send the whole
Erik MacArthur. And
send the whole production team up there and a couple of the network exec. Can we get the Kardashians to go to Mars?
Yeah,
Is it-
well,
I know
yeah,
a couple people that I choked out back in a couple decades ago.
well, this is the thing: is on the one hand, this is where I take issue with people committing suicide because, like, oh, it's so selfish. Not because of your family. Fuck them. They might be assholes. But
We knew it
it's
was coming.
selfish. It's selfish because there's so many cool things you could do with a live human body ready to die.
Right.
All right, one of them, go to Mars.
This is just
okay?
the start of it right here.
Yeah.
Like,
this
if-
is how it all pops off.
If you're like, look, I want to die. Okay, don't go anywhere. Don't kill yourself yet. You're ready to die. I got some things I want you to try. For instance, the Large Hadron Collider. Nobody knows what would happen if a human jumped in there. They've speculated, but nobody knows. I want to know.
Jumped in where?
The Large Hadron Collider in Sweden.
Yeah,
Is it
they're trying to find the God particle. in
Yeah,
there.
yeah. The Large Hadron.
Right.
It's the largest particle accelerator in
Trying to
history
recreate the
of
Big
all
Bang, things
time.
like that.
Right, right.
Yeah. And nobody knows what would happen if a human jumped in there. Now,
reason.
if you're ready to die, put a human in there.
You can't
If
find
they
it.
if they
Notorious
sign a
B.I.G.
thing,
already
yeah,
died,
let me
so-
die. So this is another example.
Okay.
If you're ready to die, instead of killing
So
yourself,
what are the particulars?
let me
Go to Mars.
Let me watch you go to Mars on a reality TV. Now, I wouldn't ever watch it because the problem is that I'd get attached to the characters, and you
sound
know
like a
how the
bitch.
show ends. And the show ends with them, hey, it's Mars.
Then they're incinerated.
We're all gonna die.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean,
well,
if they make
they-
it to Mars, that's probably pretty impressive.
they could live. Let's say they live for 2-3 years.
So now
on-
what-
But
what
you
is-
can't ever come back. It's going to take you 30 years to get there.
No one's coming back. We know this.
Yeah, yeah. Well, not 7 years. I think it's.
I like how they call them ambassadors.
I guess it takes.
You are not an ambassador to a place that has no one else.
Versus idiots.
We're gonna put ambassadors versus idiots on the board as a final cap of the show.
Let's see. It's the logistics of a one-way trip. They're saying it doesn't preclude the possibility that we might be able to get them back, because it theoretically, theoretically.
What about the camera operator is what I want
Yeah,
to
right.
know.
Well, no, you could do enough with just like, come on. We've all seen Cash Cab. So
There's going to be one handheld camera operator in that fucking flight. We know this for a fact.
Some guy, there's gonna have to be like a unit production manager.
There's
up there with
one
him or
dude in
something.
there. I think we know this. Mitch.
the idea
Somebody's
is
gotta work
first
for the
off
team.
they
Somebody's
need
gotta watch the kids.
First
right?
off they need the money to get out.
shortest straw in
They
the
need to
world
get
they will
the,
draw.
the money to get out to Mars. So they were going to do a pre-reality show, which is sort of like an American Idol, where
And
people
then they're expecting to raise
compete.
$300 million in order to get to
Right?
the season. I mean,
Jeez.
how much
Well,
money
don't
are these guys
pretend-
getting?
wait.
I mean, what is it? $1 billion? How much does it cost to get to Mars?
In Dutch money.
Let me ask you on a personal human level. You found out that on this Friday, at let's say 4 or 5 o'clock, it's not getting in the way of your plans. What doesn't get in the way of plans? 7
Someone's
o'clock.
going to Mars.
You're gonna watch.
I'm gonna
people-
watch it. Everybody's
You're gonna
gonna watch it.
You're gonna watch 4 people leave Earth
Wednesday
and-
night, Mitch.
and
No
never.
one puts good TV on Friday.
$40
Come
I
on.
don't know.
That's
I
$40
don't know
pay-per-view
what the
for
good
sure.
time is for TV.
It damn sure ain't Friday.
Okay.
No, you're right. That can make some money. I'm not.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm just saying, you find out that Wednesday at whatever o'clock, what's prime
8
time?
o'clock on Fox.
Is that right? Is it 8 o'clock?
I don't know. I think at this
Wednesday,
point
8
they're
o'clock
getting-
Fox.
Okay.
Here we go.
I don't know what prime time is, so let's
Let's
go.
go.
with that. I don't know seasons or prime
Eric's
time.
producing.
Yeah, I got you. You sitting down? I'm doing
Good. Eric MacArthur.
Yeah, right.
Eric MacArthur
He's got
presents
no shiners.
a couple of people.
Shiners.
4 motherfuckers. I didn't even mean that. I meant like you as a human. You find out that you can watch live 4 people leave the Earth forever.
Oh yeah.
You're gonna watch that.
Sure. You're
You're
gonna
gonna stay through the
Yeah.
You're gonna stay through all the commercials. You don't wanna
Advertising
miss
rates are going to be
a
bananas.
single minute of these fucking people and their journey. Now
Well,
maybe
I mean,
you
you
might
know what?
choose-
The
so
beauty
so
is
if
that
you
we could
get if
digitally
you get
create all that
everyone on
shit and
Earth.
put it, we could digitally create that shit and put it in a soundstage in North Hollywood, and no one know the fucking difference. Right?
No, but you
Sounds
wouldn't.
like someone's got a
because you-
pilot up his sleeves.
But what you'd be most curious about is how would real actual humans
Survive it.
filmed in real time, let's say, because they don't have time to fucking get a camera operator. Let's just do a camera. There's probably some editing, sure, but
4 people on a one-way trip.
4 fucking people on a one-way trip to a planet not of this Earth. And you're gonna watch it, like you'd tune in, like you'd be like, I gotta see this.
Sure.
And I feel like the whole planet might do that. Now,
That's some money.
$300 million is not that much when you're talking about the whole planet.
Except for the fact that I am reading the article and it says $6 billion.
Is that what they're asking for?
It says.
I'm sure.
$6 billion.
I'm sure.
Still,
I don't-
even with the
Yeah.
simplified logistics of a one-way trip, the Mars One project will still carry
He said
a price
300
tag
million. I
of
said 300 million is no problem.
billion
$6
dollars.
billion
That's
is
what I said,
easy.
300 million, and then I went to the billions after that.
$6
because
billion
$6
easy.
That
That's
sounds-
$1.
that
Could
sounds
you
about right.
if you okay, Eric? I am bringing you this idea. You're a network executive. $6 billion to make how much?
Whoa, whoa, whoa,
Are you
whoa!
taking it?
Your if you do a media buyout, right? And you're like, you know, there's a lot of companies that have a lot of money, that kind of money. Exxon, Apple, maybe Pepsi and Coke. You never know. But the point
Apple's
is,
got $6 billion.
like, if you got Apple's like,
jump
we're gonna
change.
give them all laptops so they can communicate from fucking wherever they're from.
Right, right.
If they did a media
At that
buyout,
point, you're
that's
tattooing Apple
worth
across their
Golden
forehead.
Palace presents.
worth
exactly.
every fucking penny. The entire world is watching people leave the earth for the
It's
last
just a
time.
matter of like getting somebody to
And
do
the
a
possibility-
cash flow chart on the $6 billion.
The best part-
to
I
get
mean,
them.
yeah. I mean,
best part is that they even
initial
say
when
buy-in.
they don't break the atmosphere.
The best part is
you're
that
out
they
$2
say
billion.
like there's a
When
possibility
you're on like day
you might come
47 and
back.
they're just like peeing.
yeah, exactly.
The possibility they might come back is enticing. That's what keeps you around for second season. That's
Ain't
what they're
nobody
talking
coming
about.
back. Ain't nobody coming back.
Yeah,
okay?
but what are they gonna do? They're gonna put them in a spaceship, get them up to Mars, and then they're gonna land, right?
Yeah.
And then they're not gonna get out of the damn thing.
Okay,
You think they're just gonna hang out there, or what do you think?
Listen,
I don't know.
listen,
It's
Here we go.
so
Here we go.
ridiculous. I can't believe
the
I'm actually
colonist
thinking of it.
selection process begins in 2012.
That's what I was
An
saying.
open
You
casting
didn't let
call.
me finish it
No,
earlier, but
okay,
go
no.
ahead. Go ahead.
40 people take place in a rigid decade-long training program. You gonna do 10 years?
No,
you gonna
that's,
do 10
their whole-
years?
that's what they're talking about.
10-year
They
training
want
program.
a 10-year reality show.
And then
of
10
getting ready
years
for them to go to Mars.
10 years to take it
Yeah.
to Mars. So you got 20 years locked
The reality show
Right.
should be about the
I'm not even talking
dipshits
about that.
producing
I'm
it.
talking
I think
about,
that
like,
might actually be the
What's
goal.
interesting is
in.
this.
But that's what they're talking about.
Yeah, this article came out the same week as people were just talking about these same Dutch people that weren't producers, but just a Dutch bunch of scientists that were like, who would sign up to just not come back? Who would do a one-way trip? And then I think some producers were
Probably a
like,
lot of
hey, I
people
got an
that sit
idea.
out there.
What if we filmed the shit? Now, I'm not talking about this article. I am, but I mean, in a roundabout way, I'm more talking about, like, would you watch a reality show of people who are
Sure.
leaving the earth forever?
Yes.
Would you watch them on there? Because I don't know.
Fuck
I don't
yeah.
watch reality shows in
I
general.
don't either, but I'd watch that one.
just to see what. I mean,
Yeah, I mean, anything having to do with
obviously-
sending people to space, I'll watch it.
obviously you'd watch the launch,
Right.
and you'd watch the
I
landing.
would tune in every episode for people on Mars. You
Yeah,
got,
yeah,
you
yeah.
got my attention.
The launch and the
and I haven't
landing is
watched
all
the
I
reality
need.
TV.
Everything else can go to hell. Right.
Right. No, I mean,
No, I'm sure, but how could you not make $6 billion with that? As I guess what I'm thinking. But the lean up, the 10-year training program leading up to that, I wouldn't watch
10-year
that.
training
There's no
program.
way I'd watch
Right?
that. That's
No way.
stupid.
No.
Yeah, no,
It's
it's
falling
stupid.
apart.
why
now.
did they need 10 years?
You know what I'm saying?
Look, it's a bunch of rocks.
I
Send
would
'em-
watch it if it
send-
was 3 months, and then you
send 'em-
send some motherfuckers to
you
Mars
send 'em
because
to-
they're
And
not
then what,
prepared
we're
at
gonna
all.
watch 10 years of them having like problems with each other, like any other
Yeah,
reality
yeah,
show.
It would be like
where it's
Real World,
you
basically.
send them, I don't really.
Send them
why
to the
does
Yuma
so-and-so get to sit in the
Mountains.
front seat and I
Send them
gotta
to the
sit in the back?
superstition mountains of
How
Arizona.
come you always get the
Yeah.
train
Like
on
a-
the Red Rocks, bitch?
Who can hold their breath longer? You know, it's
yeah.
like who can hold their piss longer and like. In the
You
rest
send
of
them to the superstition
Although-
mountains in Arizona for like a week.
One
we're
Tree
good.
Hill was
that's
on
that's
air
the
for 9
entirety of what they're
seasons.
going to see on Mars is like a
Right.
couple of rocks. So send them to the superstition mountains for like a week
I'll
and
say
be like,
this.
can you save yourself from that? And you're good.
My
And then
point,
let's
I will say
vote.
this.
American Idol is not all just about picking the initial contestants.
Listen, if a show like One Tree Hill can exist for 9 seasons, I feel like a Mars mission can last for a decade.
Is One Tree Hill still on?
It just ended.
They
It
finished
just
9
ended,
seasons of
and
it?
yeah, it went 9 seasons long. I
With
know
Chad
this.
Michael Murray?
Not even in the last 2 seasons.
Okay, good.
I
They
know
did-
this
did they,
because
did they get up to 9 trees on the hill
me
after that?
and my,
I don't
I
know.
hate you, Mitch.
I
Me
don't
and my
watch
lady
this
just
bullshit.
plowed through One Tree Hill on Netflix. She wanted to watch that.
Really?
So I am a thorough aficionado of One Tree Hill.
Wow.
Don't you dare say nothing.
This is some bullshit.
Hot, hey.
Don't you dare say nothing.
Hey,
okay.
hey,
Some bullshit.
whatever
I have to study the opposition.
Whatever.
Bullshit. I'm offended by this whole thing.
Sometimes you just gotta sit through whatever they want to watch. I mean, that's really what it comes down to. Even if it's
But look,
5 seasons.
like,
of
it's
This is
one
why I
of
don't
those
have a
things-
girlfriend. I
this is
couldn't.
one of
I'd
those
be like,
things
no,
where,
what?
like,
You know what, honey?
you watch a show like that,
You're
and
beautiful.
beautiful
keeps
and
them
shit, but
quiet.
like,
it's
fuck
kind,
you.
It's kind of like
My
this,
bad, I
where you were
should've-
saying earlier, where you're like, they just start throwing out ideas, where
Right.
like this motherfucker dies and this person dies too, and you're like, One Tree Hill is a perfect example of
Yeah.
everything that's wrong with TV, because like the fucking main character.
And you watched 9 seasons of it?
Well, 8
Well,
seasons.
soap
9
opera,
season isn't on
right? I mean,
Netflix.
it's very soap opera.
It is total just gross soap
You are
opera.
so off camera, Eric. I'm
Sorry,
But-
soap opera.
But it's this thing where like you get rid of the main
I'm, like,
characters,
cranking
and
your
then you
mic
got
up,
like
going,
you got
"What?"
like the hit theme song, which is like a hit top pop song from Gavin DeGraw or whatever, and like you get rid of that shit, and like you just like it's just everything that's wrong about TV. Where it's
Right.
like this shit should have ended like 7 seasons ago.
Right,
You know what I mean?
right.
So
it
like
should have been on for 2 seasons
like,
instead of 9.
just to kind of
They
bring it
plant
together.
a new tree on the hill.
No, motherfucker, they burned the hill to the ground.
Why would you watch this horrible shit?
I am.
This is why I'm a
man.
terror. I couldn't do it. I'd be like, you know what? We're breaking up. If you go past 3rd season,
Sorry for having love in my
it's
heart.
done.
But this is, I guess, my point. And it was like, listen, I would be very skeptical about this plan if I had not just watched 8 seasons of One Tree Hill and known that it was a thing. that
Right,
existed in this
right.
world.
You're saying that you could potentially watch 10 episodes
I'm not-
of
not me.
people. Right, I mean 10 seasons.
Not
Says
me.
the guy who watched
you know,
8
you in
seasons of One
particular-
Tree
Shut
Hill.
up, bitch! I watched it after it was off the
But
air.
there are
Uh-huh.
people out there that could watch 10 seasons
Somebody-
of people getting ready to go to Mars.
Somebody keeps the CW on
Do I
air.
need to say it again? Going to Mars.
Going to Mars.
I would watch it if they were actually going to Mars, but the training, no. And by the way,
training to go to Mars.
by
'cause
the
then
way-
you got to be prepared for the next
No.
10 years, Mitch. You
By the
can't-
way-
you can't miss
Right.
the first 10 years.
Right.
there's no
Come on,
chance in
10
hell.
years of training to go to Mars.
You do not need 10 years of training to go to
No,
Mars.
you
I think
could do it
NASA
in
might
10
disagree
months.
with you.
You need
months.
10 months.
I want
tops.
Eric. I want Eric to
Tops.
produce this show.
Tops.
Yeah.
No,
Get-
like seriously.
Get the Dutch on the
I can
phone
do it.
right
We can do
now.
it at a price, not
I
6
got
billion.
It's very easy.
$75.
It's
two
very
bags
easy.
of meth.
Here's what you do. Here's what you do. You start from a pool of, let's say, there's not a lot of people who would sign up for a one-way trip to Mars. I know because it's never happened.
You only need 4.
Yeah. Okay. So you start with a pool of people.
Yeah, but
and-
isn't Branson trying to get people to go to Mars? Or
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, Richard
Well, yeah,
Branson. He's the
eventually.
moon. He's
But-
the-
They go to
but
the moon?
He's
just-
doing
right
the
now it's
private
just
space exploration.
Oh,
his
okay.
private. It doesn't even go to the moon. It's just
They just
go
go
up
to-
in
they just go to
space.
space.
And they go,
Right,
look,
right,
this is
right.
space.
Have
Look
a
around.
few drinks.
Now
and
we're
come
going
back down.
right back down.
Sign me up for
Right.
that shit.
Yeah.
Have a cup
What
of
I'm
coffee.
talking about-
Happy hour in space,
Yeah.
bitches.
I'm not even talking about that. I'm talking about. By the way, he
Sign me
couldn't.
up for
But
that.
whatever. What I'm saying is,
I would love a
okay, you
happy
take
hour in space.
300 people and you say, listen, you might come back, but there's a very Vegas
300
odds.
people?
If you were betting in Vegas, you would lose on your coming back. So I need people who are going to Mars and will never ever come back. Now you've
That's
out
everyone.
of the planet, you've narrowed the pool considerably to maybe 300 people
So that's like
who are ready to go to Mars on a one-way trip.
Oh, God.
And frankly, those people would be extremely scientifically minded
Well, you
because they'd
gotta
be like,
think-
No,
I'm
they
gonna-
wouldn't.
Well,
They
you
do
got to
not.
think those
You're not
people that you're
listening.
talking about could make for a decent reality TV show.
But they
I
would
know.
not be scientifically minded.
Here's
I
what
mean,
I'm
you're talking
no,
about-
because here's what I'm thinking.
It would be
Because
half the cast of
the
The Real
only
World.
people who give a shit.
Right. I mean,
And
that
the
would
Bad
be
Girls
decent.
Club.
It'd be
No,
pretty sad.
I don't think they would sacrifice
would
their
be very
lives.
It'd be pretty
depressing.
sad.
It would
Yeah.
be very depressing.
You get
All
Dr.
right,
Drew
all
to
right.
eat
We're
pig
going
on it or
comedy. I'm
something.
going realistically.
We're
I'm not
going
talking-
realistically.
You're
You're
going
going
fucking
fantasy.
comedy. I'm talking realistically. When you hear about scientists that are studying stuff out in the universe that's like 20 billion light years away and more, and you go to yourself and you think, why are you doing this? Because first off, you're not going to ever get an answer in your lifetime to the research that you're doing. And secondly, who cares? Let's say you find out the answer that you were looking for 20 billion light years away. It doesn't matter. So you're gonna find people.
Kinda matters.
You're going to find people that are willing to sacrifice their fucking very lives to tell you a firsthand account of what it's like to step on Mars, which is not the Kardashians, because they need to sit over here with their chihuahuas and their $20 million mansions and whatever have you. Okay, whatever. My point is, you're gonna the pool will be very small, considerably out of the human race. There's a very small pool of people that are like, yeah, I'll take a one-way trip to Mars. Cool.
You wouldn't want half of those people.
I'm not saying you would. That's why you take the people who sign up for that shit and you fucking run them through tests. And it wouldn't take long to fucking pick out the people who should not go to Mars.
So you're saying that you're looking for stable people that want to take a death trip to Mars, and that make the show interesting.
Yes, and
You're not
moreover,
gonna-
and
you are not a
moreover,
producer
and
at all,
moreover, and
I
moreover,
know producers, and you,
And
sir,
more-
are no producer.
it would not take you 10
I mean,
years.
you're talking about like a guy with a wife and kids who's an investment
No,
banker
no.
and trying to send him to
Are we gonna-
Mars.
are we gonna
is
get
what you're
Karl
asking
Rove to
about.
go to Mars?
Versus the people like living in Finland in the dark that are just listening to Metallica, drinking your Svedka over here, just
That's
waiting
fine.
for it all to be over.
Look, I'm saying that those people that would go to Mars on a one-way
I like
trip
that idea.
are not going to.
Let's get the Svedka robot to go.
You
to
don't
Mars.
need 10 years to vet the few people
No.
who would agree to this.
I can do it about
You do not.
8 or 9 hours.
That's what I'm saying.
right.
And who gives a? Let's say they're fucking idiots. Who gives a shit? The point is, we got
I think
fucking
science would care.
Science. Maybe a little bit.
Science might give a shit.
You say that, but the point of the fact of the matter is, you get these fucking humans to Mars, and when they get to Mars, I know that you.
Wait a minute.
Need
Hold
motherfuckers.
on, god damn it! I know, Teddy, that you have zero hope for the human race, but what I'm telling you, as a person who does, I'm telling you that I don't care how stupid you might think the average person is, and how misguided that line of thinking might be. If you get 4 people on the planet Earth to the planet Mars with any kind of mission in mind, they will land on that other planet and be 100,000 times smarter than they are today, because they're going, literally, the entirety of all humanity throughout all of history has never been on this fucking speck of dust that I stand on now, and I will do everything within my power to make this last, because guess what? I'm not going back. I probably will never go back, and my only hope for going back is doing this mission right. And I propose that probably they do a decent job. I don't give a fuck who the fuck you send on there.
Yeah.
All you need to do is make sure these 4 people get along.
That is not going to be borne out by reality.
And we are...
That
you
is
know,
not it. That is not it. Wait, sir. On this note, we disagree.
You are unqualified to make that distinction. I
Listen,
have seen...
Everybody on this side of the table knows something
I'm
about
just
putting together a
curious-
Mars reality show.
Right, but also, okay, wait, these are the Dutch we're talking about?
Yeah.
No, I'm not.
The
No.
Dutch.
So is this
God
$6
damn it,
billion
people.
It is
of
the Dutch,
of the
Mitch.
Dutch,
Shut up.
of the Dutch's money?
What money
No.
they got?
This is
Ah,
do
yeah,
the Dutch
hey,
have $6
you-
billion
you
A
are-
to spend, and B, when
You
people get
are
to Mars,
ignoring the
what
entire
exactly
point
they
of
have
what
to
I
do?
said.
Collect some fucking
Hit 'em,
rocks?
Eric. Let them know, Eric.
No, I'm just saying.
Let
I'm just
'em
saying.
know. Spit that truth, son.
When I mean, if they're you're getting these
Spit the
people
truth.
together, you're saying they can do a damn good job when they get to Mars. Doing what?
Dying.
Yeah,
Probably. That's fine. That's fine. But
putting the MTV flag in the
wait,
fucking
wait, wait, wait,
dirt.
wait. That's fine. But here's my point. Here's my point. My point is that there are many
I want my MTV on Mars.
there are many people. There are many stories throughout a long period of time of people
Trying to get to Mars
Put-
and not making it.
That's
all right, go ahead. I'm merely saying there are many people throughout time face to face with what seems like insurmountable odds and exceeding them, despite the fact that in their history as a human, they've never done anything.
Right.
But then when faced with insurmountable odds, rise to the challenge. And I
And
suspect...
there, folks, is the plot of Armageddon.
And I suspect, yes, and I suspect that if you took any 4 people and put them on Mars, they would exceed the expectations that you have lowered
because
for the
they're
human
so
race.
low, bro. That's like Sarah
I
Palin
know.
expectations.
That's because you have no hope for humanity because you think you're qualified to make the distinction on other people's intelligence, which you, Eric, and myself are not qualified to make.
I'm qualified enough to know, bro, that a fucking expedition to Mars is doomed to fail and there are a set of standards, bro.
Especially if it's done by a bunch of reality
We are
producers
15
from
minutes over
Okay.
time.
all
I
that.
appreciate this
All right.
conversation. I
Eric.
vehemently disagree with both of you. Eric,
Everybody disagrees.
let's plug some shit for you.
Where can the people find Erik MacArthur?
Where you got a Twitter, you got a Facebook, what you got?
I
What you
guess
got?
I unfortunately I hate to admit, but I do have a Facebook. I don't have a Twitter.
Get on that Twitter.
But yeah, I don't really
Tweet
have
them
anything,
What are you
shits.
from
I don't really have anything to
1993?
say on Twitter, and I don't really. I'm kind of scared to go on Twitter because what if only 5 or 6 people follow me? Then
I'll follow you. You got
you
two
follow
right here.
the thing.
We'll tell
You got
people.
straight riffing
and then
fan base behind you.
and then I feel like I got to check in and say, maybe I should though. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, while you're
We'll
making the
boost you up.
movie, because the thing
Yeah, you're
is,
right. I
if
probably need to set up a Twitter.
if the last time that you entered the cultural lexicon was with Bottoms Up, and then before that, Salute Your Shorts, which, by the way, which is going to give you a huge platform.
Right. I've been hiding since Bottoms
I know,
Up in the
but you-
bushes. Yeah.
That's the problem. See,
Yeah,
if you pop up now, then
Yeah,
you
you-
can be like, "Hey, motherfuckers,
Here I am-
Bottoms
here I
Up's
am on
whatever."
Twitter.
Still standing, bitches.
Yeah, I'm right here on Twitter, yo. Check me out.
Hey, I'm telling you,
That should be
a
your
lot
profile.
of people have
Yeah, yeah.
I'm
second.
here on Twitter. Check me
A
out.
lot of
yo.
people have second lives on them Twitters. So
Oh,
yeah, you
Jesus.
tweet while you're making the movie.
And I'm just falling victim to the system.
You say that.
When I tweet when I make the
tell you.
movie, yeah, all right.
Yeah, it'd be
Oh,
good.
yeah.
It's a good idea.
But no, but in all
It's a
seriousness,
good idea.
It's all serious. Get on Twitter.
anything,
Tweet 'ems.
That's it.
Yo, but in all serious, you need the tweets.
but any projects, anything you want to?
No, that's it. That's it. I hopefully,
Just a man doing work.
just a man doing work. Hopefully, I'll have a movie that everybody will be. I
And if
guess
you need help-
seeing in sometime 2013.
2013, fuck you, Mayans.
Sometime this year, yeah. If we make it,
God
hopefully
damn it,
I'll
we're
have
gonna
some-
make
I'll
it,
have
you
something for people
fucking-
to see.
This guy doesn't believe in humanity or the earth. So
But yeah, that's all. That's
we're
all.
gonna
I
make it
have
in
to- that's all
2013.
I
I
have to
believe in
plug.
you.
That and the
And
upcoming
if you need help
Dutch
whittling down who goes
Dutch
to Mars,
Mars.
we're
untitled Dutch Mars project.
let us in on that.
That's
I'm
gonna
I'm
go
down.
on your IMDb as of tomorrow.
Absolutely, yeah.
If anything, it's short film
No,
worthy.
Eric was putting $3 billion behind this Dutch project.
Yeah, I stumbled upon $3 billion, and I'm gonna send some people to Mars.
It was a
whether
good-
whether they like it or not.
I got a hot hand in the game of
Fuck
dice.
the mansion. I'm
There's
putting
actually a few
motherfuckers on
people, the
Mars.
Kardashians. We could. I mean, that's yeah.
The problem is you never want to watch them. You'd be like, ugh.
Well,
I'm glad they're going to Mars.
I'm gonna say it.
Maybe
Back
this
right.
whole project
There's
is
a
a failure, but
disturbingly healthy contingent of people who might want to watch them die in slow motion every day.
well,
true.
The problem is that like if you do a project where all the money is in getting the thing off the ground, like once it leaves the atmosphere, nobody ever has to watch again because it's like whatever. Like all
Hey,
that
listen,
money is
I mean,
lost.
Everybody loves
I
space,
think
baby.
I honestly think it's a better use of taxpayers' dollars than putting people like in prison forever. We could just put them in like in something and just launch them up in the sky and
If you're on death row, go to
Send
Mars.
all the
check some
pedophiles
shit
to
out.
Mars.
yeah. How hard could it be to put people in a people pod and throw them on Mars? Like, hey, you're gonna
We
die
could
on
do
death
heat
row.
tests
either way.
on 'em,
Yeah,
you
I
know?
know.
Like,
I'm with you.
that
This is
kinda
what I was
shit.
saying from the get-go. This is why suicide is selfish. If you're gonna put people on death row, launch them into space.
It's all new forms. Of
Like maybe
yeah.
they're hardened criminals and they'll do no good for society, but maybe they bring
I mean,
back some good shit
that's
from
how
Mars.
yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You know, it's worth a shot. It couldn't hurt.
But yeah, no.
Did you have a good time tonight with all
I
this
had a
yelling and
blast, you
screaming?
guys. Thank you for
Yeah.
the beers and the entertainment and
Yeah.
the,
And when you're done with the movie, come back on. and
Yeah, yeah, for
We
let's
sure.
would
just
love
have
to
a
have you
chat.
back anytime.
Yeah.
Let us know whenever you're doing the damn thing.
Oh yeah, man.
You always got a chair
Yeah.
available.
You
to
can
in
bring
front of
all the
headquarters.
people.
It was
We
a-
got it.
It was
We're gonna-
it was a blast.
Bring Paul Walker next time.
And I will
Yeah, no,
always,
shit.
always.
I'll try and push some people your guys' way. No,
Yeah,
you-
yeah,
you
that'd be
get-
awesome.
It's a fun show.
Bring us some
here.
donkey
This is
lips and a
great.
redhead.
Yeah, bring.
It's
I'll
better than we could ever expected. Sir.
Yeah, it was. Did you feel comfortable?
Oh yeah.
You seemed a
man.
little nervous beforehand that you weren't a comedian or some shit. I said you do fine. You do
Yeah.
fine.
A
You feel good now?
A couple Heinekens get the job done.
Couple
Always
Heineken's,
does.
no
Always
problem.
does.
Yeah, no, it was great. Thank you.
Yeah,
guys.
yeah. Thank you for coming by. Teddy, what you got coming up?
You know.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Shit.
You know, just a hard-working poor black man trying to make an education in this world. Holla at your boy, July 1st, improv, doing the men's club. My man Justin Ruppel, TK, everybody holding it down. So that's what I'm in right now, bitches. Find me in the streets.
And you and I are doing a show next month at
Comedy
Flappers.
Con Carne with Jose.
You don't put a
Chavez.
roll on it? Can you roll your own?
Comedy Con Carne.
There you go.
There it
Good,
is.
yeah.
Flappers Comedy Club, 10 p.m.
The last comedy con carne
for quite a
going
while.
out. Literally, there's only one person on that show that hasn't been on Straight Riffin'. So
Yeah.
it's like a Straight Riffin'
Yeah.
reunion.
We're doing
which
it.
is
So
awesome.
Flappers, get your tickets. Comedy Con Carne. Everybody,
Tomorrow
Mitch, what
night,
you
I'm
got?
doing a show at the Palms here in Hollywood, not in Vegas, unfortunately. Should not have said yes to that gig prior to this, but whatever. At the Palms Club in Hollywood. And you show up, you can buy some tomatoes to throw at my fucking drunk ass while I talk about my dick.
He will be drunk.
Yeah, because I'm going to need to deaden the pain of people coming to throw tomatoes at me.
The Dell guy I heard is going to be in attendance.
Sweet. Awesome. Good, because it's a gay club, so it's perfect. Come on out. Throw some tomatoes for charity. You buy tomatoes for charity, and you can throw them at me, and I will pee on you afterwards. And maybe I might even fuck your mouth and your mother.
Riffopolis,
Jesus.
thank you for having us again. Good night, bitches.
Thanks for listening to Straight Riffin'. You can catch all past and future episodes of Straight Riffin' on the official website, riffin.net, riffin.net. Keep in mind, we do air live every Monday night from 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. Pacific Time. That's 10 p.m. to midnight for you East Coasters. You can actually watch that right on Facebook, on our fan page, facebook.com/straightriffin'. Like us, check out the Ustream page. You can even chat while we're doing the show. That's how we interact with the fans. We thank you so much for listening. Check out riffin.net. Buy my album. Buy Teddy's album. We'll catch you again next time. It ripped the